Chapter 725. Have a boyfriend, who? Gu Mingming was dumbfounded and could not keep up. Snake took a step forward and bent down slightly. He looked into her clear eyes and said, You? Gu Mingming instinctively took a step back and shook her head. Senior, you have not agreed to my confession. I don't have a boyfriend. Gu Mingming took a small step back and Snake took a big step forward. The distance between the two of them became so close that Gu Mingming could feel Snake's breath rushing towards her. You do. The two light words were filled with endless ambiguity. Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and wanted to cry. When did this happen? Why didn't I know? She was forced to take a few steps back by Snake. She lost her footing and fell backwards. Snake quickly grabbed onto her waist and pulled her into his arms, allowing her to slam into his chest. Seeing how her nose was red from the impact and how her eyes were watery from the pain, Snake felt the satisfaction from teasing her. He rubbed her little head in satisfaction and said, I am now officially informing you that from this second onwards, I am your boyfriend. Do you understand now? Gu Mingming looked at Snake as if she was looking at a lunatic. She wanted to snatch back her confession letter. Senior, you might have read too many romance novels, but I don't like you. Return the letter to me, return it to me. Gu Mingming's petite arms and legs did not have any advantage in front of Snake. Looking at how she was jumping around in his arms, Snake frowned and said, The first love letter was not written to me, are you sure? Gu Mingming looked at Snake and Gu Mingming and said, The first love letter was not written to me, are you sure? Gu Mingming suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. She was suddenly terrified. Wasn't he the one who suddenly appeared and spoiled her confession? Why was he so confident while she was like a red-necked apricot who was caught trying to climb the wall? Feeling guilty for no reason, Gu Mingming carefully retreated from Snake's arms. She smiled bitterly. Senior, you go ahead with your work. I won't disturb you anymore. Before she finished her sentence, Gu Mingming had already run off. What confession? Forget it. She had a feeling that her life was in danger. Looking at her fleeing back view, Snake was in an inexplicably good mood. He smiled and muttered to himself, Yeah, you've grown up. The last time we met, I was so scared that I fainted. Turning back, Snake faced the guy who Gu Mingming had confessed to and was about to slip away. Come here. That boy seemed to have been frozen in place. He turned his head around stiffly and stood in a proper military posture in front of Snake. Snake frowned. The person in front of him was not the swimming club Prince Charming Sr. that Gu Mingming had in mind. That fellow from the swimming club had already been tortured so badly by him that he had to transfer schools. Diske, where did this eyesore come from? Which society are you from? Snake asked. Basketball club, the boy answered. Snake nodded, thinking that perhaps his interference had caused Gu Mingming's interest to deviate, but it did not matter, he would do whatever she liked. Patting the boy's shoulder, he said, Later, bring a letter of application to block a classroom 9 to find me. Yes. With that, the boy ran off as if he was escaping for his life. Snake turned around and walked towards Block A Classroom 9 as the bell rang. Chapter 726. As the fog started to spread, Gu Mingming smiled helplessly at the beast deity. Yeah, no matter if Snake is a human or a snake, I am still as cowardly as ever in front of him. The beast deity was still smiling benevolently. He tilted his head at Gu Mingming. Are you relieved to know that he is like this now? Gu Mingming nodded. I am relieved to see that he is living well. Even if he ends up falling in love with someone else, I will be satisfied as long as he is happy. The beast deity shook his head. Don't you understand? Even if he goes to that world, Snake is still an orc by nature. Falling in love with someone means that he will never change. There has never been a change of heart. That's true. How could 1,000 years of understanding be changed in just a few decades? Gu Mingming smiled helplessly. But I am so cowardly and Snake is so domineering. According to my character, I will definitely be frightened to death by him. The beast deity nodded in agreement. So this the overbearing senior who transmigrated through the past and present lives falls in love with me, should be a rather long television series. If you are interested, why don't we watch it together next time? Gu Mingming smiled. Are you a retired, lonely old man asking his children to visit him regularly? His reputation is to ask his children to come back for dinner. You are asking your daughter to come back to watch television series with you? And even a youth idol romance film? The beast deity chuckled and did not say a word. Gu Mingming paused. She looked up at the beast deity. What I saw just now, was it all real? You did not use some illusion spell to fool me, right? The beast deity nodded. Deities cannot lie. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. She suddenly felt the burden on her shoulders lightened. Although they were not in the same time-space, it was great that Snake could be happy. Back then he had said that he was the most powerful beast king. No matter which time-space he was in, he would always be the king of the world. At that time she was still criticizing him for being an egomaniac. Now it seemed that what he said was reasonable. Alright, I will leave now. There is still someone waiting for me at my door. The beast deity tugged at Gu Mingming's arm. Gu Mingming turned back to look at the beast deity, waiting for him to continue. The beast deity thought for a moment and said, "You really want to find those things for coal?" Gu Mingming smiled and asked, "Why? Are you afraid that he will activate his beast king bloodline after obtaining the treasure and harm the common people?" The beast god hesitated, then nodded. Gu Mingming grinned. "That's easy. Give me Qishuan's antidote. Or tell me how to cure the poison in my son's body and I won't find any treasures for coal. If you need it, I can even kill him personally. Let's see if you want to eat sashimi or hot pot. I can make sure you're satisfied." The beast deity sighed and said helplessly, as if he was looking at his daughter who was acting shamelessly, "You know, I can't interfere with the matters of the beast world." Gu Mingming chuckled and asked, "If you don't let me find the 5 treasures for coal, does that not count as interference?" The beast deity seemed to have expected this question from Gu Mingming. He did not get angry and just replied calmly, "I'm just afraid that you don't know the effects of those 5 treasures and won't be able to turn a blind eye to it." Chapter 727. Gu Mingming turned to leave, but the beast deity sighed and said in a low voice, "No father can watch his own child perish together with others." After Gu Mingming woke up, she was in a good mood and even felt that the sky had turned bluer. Stretching, she took the cup of water that Elvis handed over and drank a mouthful to moisten her throat. Then she smiled gently and said, "Thank you." Elvis poked Gu Mingming's head with his finger and said, "Saying thank you to me?" Gu Mingming thought about it and agreed. Elvis had done so many things for her, which one of them could be repaid with just a few simple words of thanks. She wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and kissed him on the cheek, then hung herself in Elvis's arms in an affectionate manner. Elvis enjoyed Gu Mingming's long-awaited intimacy very much. His Xiaoming was getting better day by day. Although she was still different from before, at least when facing him and Leah she was not much different from before. That was enough. As for her attitude towards others, whether she wanted to benefit the world or destroy it, he didn't care as long as she was happy. "How long did I sleep for?" Gu Mingming asked. Elvis replied, 2 days and 1 night. "Where's Wabiai? Still squatting at the entrance?" Elvis nodded and said, "Yeah, he hasn't moved at all." "Let's go and take a look." Elvis didn't say anything and just carried Gu Mingming out of the cave. She had a good sleep and her body was well rested. Without any trivial matters to worry about, and knowing that Snake was indeed living a good life, although her situation was weak and awkward, and Snake's domineering way of chasing would only make her run faster and further, but wasn't it a good thing for Snake to create some small trouble like this for him? His life was too plain and boring. No one dared to defy his rule and it became lonely after a long time. It was good to let her create some trouble for him in another space-time. Curling her lips, Gu Mingming suddenly reached out to sneak an attack on Wabiai from behind. Wabiai's reflexes were very sharp and he dodged in a flash. This kind of pressure was very familiar. It was dangerous but not murderous, so Wabiai knew from the start that it was Gu Mingming. But he never does such sneak attacks. How embarrassing. Wabiai's face was full of disdain. Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders and said nonchalantly, "He said, he is him and I am me. He asked me to live my life in the way I want. So I like sneak attacks. What do you think? Hit me if you dare." Wabiai rolled up his sleeves and stood up. "Let's fight then, who's afraid of who?" Gu Mingming pushed Elvis away and stepped forward. She opened her arms wide and said, "Come on, go ahead and fight. I don't fight back. But if he dies, you have to explain to the beast deity yourself." Actually, Wabiai really wanted to fight with him for the first time in a long time. But looking at Gu Mingming's fearless expression, he didn't dare to make a move. No matter how much strength she had in her body was simply too small and looked very fragile. In the past, he dared to fight with her because he knew he couldn't beat her. But now she was clearly not fighting back or dodging. Wasn't she being shameless? What if he really broke her? How was he going to explain to Snake? Chapter 728. Wabiai reached out to grab Gu Mingming's arm, but thinking of Snake's guarded and warning eyes, he finally opened his arms wide to block Gu Mingming's path. "You are not allowed to leave. You have to tell me, how is he? Gu Mingming chuckled. I thought you were not going to ask. Wabi glared at her. I have waited here for you for 2 days and 1 night, how can I not ask? Gu Mingming was not annoyed. She sat cross-legged on the ground. Elvis knew that Gu Mingming did not want to talk about Snake in front of him, so he turned back to the cave to tidy up the bed Gu Mingming had just slept on. Wabi sat beside Gu Mingming. After a moment of silence he said, I just want to know if he is doing well over there. Is there anyone to fight with him? Gu Mingming looked up at the sunlight. He is doing very well. He is still the arrogant Snake Highness. He has a high status and is powerful. But there doesn't seem to be a Wabi training partner like you there. But no one dares to be presumptuous in front of him either. But don't worry, he is not lonely. Because over there is another me accompanying him. Wabi was stunned. He looked at Gu Mingming. You can accompany him? Then can I do the same? Can you bring me to see him? I want to fight with him. Gu Mingming burst out laughing. She patted Wabi's shoulder and shook her head. I am just the messenger of the beast deity. I am not the beast deity himself. I don't have such great abilities. Wabi remained silent for a moment. Then he looked up at Gu Mingming. What if I find the things you want? As a reward, can you help me beg the beast deity to let me accompany Snake? Gu Mingming thought for a while and nodded. I can try to help you, but I can't guarantee the results. Wabi nodded seriously. All right. Isn't it just the kiss of the ocean and love of the sky? I will find them for you. When the time comes, remember to fulfill your promise. Gu Mingming nodded and Wabi left without looking back. After Wabi left, Elvis walked out of the cave and hugged Gu Mingming in his arms. He came all the way here to seek a beating and you just brushed him off like that? Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and said, the weather is too dry and he has been left here to dry for 2 days. His skin is about to crack, I can't bear to do it. Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's little face and did not say anything. The problem of water source, he and Leah could definitely solve it. I haven't visited Qixin for 2 days. He must be worried sick. I'm going to see my son, Gu Mingming said. Elvis did not object and only sent her to the border of Saint Nazir's territory. When Gu Mingming walked out of Cole's cave, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. She quickly walked into the cave and found that it was empty. Cole had disappeared, Qixin had also disappeared, all the daily necessities were gone. It was obvious that this was an abandoned cave. Gu Mingming clenched her fists tightly and glared into the distance. She gritted her teeth. Cole. Gu Mingming searched inside and out for a long time, but Cole did not leave any traces behind. When she returned to Saint Nazir helplessly, Leah and Elvis were already waiting for her in the cave. Elvis frowned when he saw that she did not look well. Chapter 729. After Gu Mingming explained the situation at Cole's side, Leah smiled and tapped Gu Mingming's little head. Don't worry, Cole only brought Qixin to a place with sufficient water. Although he is a stray beast now, he is used to living a luxurious life. It is impossible for him to endure hunger and thirst. Really? Gu Mingming was skeptical. Leah nodded his head in assurance. Based on his understanding of Cole, it was definitely true. Lee's words were always right. Thinking of this, Gu Mingming felt much better. Caressing Lee's face, Gu Mingming frowned. Why did you lose so much weight? I slept for 2 days and your dark eye circles have already appeared. Lee's heart warmed when he heard that Gu Mingming was concerned about him. But he could not bear for her to worry, so he purposely exaggerated his emotions to show off his morbid flirtatiousness. Wrapping his large tail around Gu Mingming's arm, he also put on a cough cough cough, come and show some concern for me look. He said in a slightly sorrowful tone, the original water source in the territory is not enough. I have been waiting for the next 2 days to find a new water source, but there is no progress at all. Look, my legs are so thin from running, I need Gu Mingming's massage to feel better. Seeing that he still had the mood to put on an act, Gu Mingming knew that although he was a little tired, he was definitely fine. So she gave him a push and snuggled back into Elvis's arms. Was it not enough in the previous years? Seeing that Gu Mingming did not buy it, Leah stopped fooling around. Straightening his expression, he said, in the previous years, there were only 3 females and over 100 males in the tribe. But this year we have 19 females and over 300 males. So, Gu Mingming held her forehead. She had forgotten about the problem of the population increase. Gu Mingming remembered that Sandy had told her before that water was scarce during winter. Even females could only ensure basic drinking water. Bathing was out of the question for them. Males basically did not touch water anymore. They would just drink beast blood to replenish their water supply during hunting. It could be seen that Saint Nazir's water source was especially scarce during the dry season. Gu Mingming held her forehead and thought for a while before asking, "Other than that stream in the lake that I transmigrated from, are there any other water sources that we have?" Elvis shook his head and said, "There's still water in that stream. Leah has already ordered all the males to hurry up and make wooden barrels to store the water. But there's a limit to how long the wooden barrels can store the water. In a few days, even if the water hasn't been drunk, it will all be gone. But right now there's no better way." The wooden barrel was made by cutting off a tree and then hollowing out the center. Although there were no gaps and the entire barrel was one piece, the problem was that the wood itself had leakage problems, so it couldn't be used as a long-term storage tool. Gu Mingming thought for a moment, then stood up and said, "Let's go, accompany me out for a walk." Elvis and Leah did not hesitate. No problem was more important than Gu Mingming. So what if there was no water source? Even if they had to rob from other tribes, they would not let Gu Mingming go hungry. As for the life and death of others, what did it matter? Elvis carried Gu Mingming while Leah followed beside him. After walking out of Elvis's territory, Oriton and Ian followed behind. The basic equipment for a messenger of the beast deity was finally ready. Every year during the dry season, is there any place in our territory where the vegetation is not too affected by the drought? Gu Mingming asked. Lee's eyes lit up. He looked at Gu Mingming and said, "You mean?" Aside from the topic, the frequency of the author's words today was a little high. I was afraid that you guys would not be used to it, so I specially mentioned it. Today's update has ended. Today's update has ended. Today's update has ended. Chapter 730. Sauter never lacks water during the dry season, isn't it because of that well? Gu Mingming continued Lee's sentence. Leah could not hide the smile on his face. How could I forget that you are the messenger of the beast deity? You can communicate with the beast deity and ask the beast deity to bestow us the Eye of Life. Gu Mingming rolled her eyes. She was already numb to how the previous messenger of the beast deity named everything in this world with such Chinibu names. Fire was fire. Why did it have to be called Flame Demon? Why did it have to be called the Eye of Life? Elvis's body stiffened. He looked at Gu Mingming and asked, "We can also have our own eyes of life?" It meant that they had an inexhaustible source of water, and the dry season was no longer a season that tested the limits of their lives. Gu Mingming sighed and held Elvis's face with both hands, looking straight into his eyes. She said, "I'm different from Wang Xiaoxin. I especially don't like those deliberately mystifying words. Let's be more normal. That thing is called a well, remember?" Elvis held Gu Mingming's little but with one hand and hugged her, while the other hand caressed the back of her head. He brought her little face to his mouth and gave her a deep, lingering kiss. His blue eyes were filled with pride and pampering as he said, "You always surprise me. I don't even know how many more secrets you have." Gu Mingming's face turned red from the kiss and she mischievously sang, "I have many secrets, I won't tell you, won't tell you, won't tell you." Elvis looked at Gu Mingming's happy expression and did not pursue the matter. They still had a lifetime to spend together and discover more of her little secrets. While Elvis and Gu Mingming were flirting with each other, Leah carefully recalled the geography of Saint Nazir and said, "There are 7 to 8 places in the territory of Saint Nazir where plants would grow densely even during the dry season. Do you want to take a look at the nearest one?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Let's go to the lowest place to take a look first." Gu Mingming could not explain to Leah and the rest why she knew such a strange technique. You might not believe it, but how could a girl who grew up in the city know how to dig a well when she was an adult, constantly running around in various places of work? This is a mysterious question, but the answer is very unique. Gu Mingming had gotten this knowledge from romance novels. A certain omnipotent goddess of war transmigrated to an unknown era and brought her mother, who was suppressed by her concubines, and her brother, who had a weak body, to become rich and sleep with beautiful men. There was some mention of digging a well. Gu Mingming's only wish now was that the great author was not spouting nonsense. Leah brought Gu Mingming and Elvis to a place with dense vegetation. As it was already the start of the dry season, the surrounding plants had more or less started to show signs of their leaves turning yellow. Only this place was still full of life and was covered in green. Gu Mingming nodded, then looked around. She broke off a thicker branch and stood it upright. It was taller than her, about 1.8 meters in length. She placed the tree branch flat and spun on the ground, crushing all the vegetation in its path into grass and mud. Gu Mingming clapped her hands and said, "Go back and get someone to dig according to the circle I drew." "All right." Leah responded and carried Gu Mingming from Elvis's arms. He pressed one hand on her ear and pressed her face against his chest. This way both of Gu Mingming's ears were blocked. Chapter 731. How blindly did the people of Saint Nazaire worship Gu Mingming? He could probably learn a thing or two from this well-digging activity. Almost all the males and females in the tribe were here, all of them looking curiously at the circle of grass and mud with a tree branch. The 18 females stood closest to the grass circle and stared at it. No one knew if they could see anything from it or not. The males stood by Elvis's side obediently, waiting for his orders. After the battle with the stray beasts and Gu Mingming's unexpected outburst, there were no longer any first-level orcs left in Saint Nazaire. Those who could stand here now were considered to have strong fighting abilities. Elvis instructed everyone to dig according to the circle drawn by Gu Mingming without any explanation. With just this one order, the males all revealed their sharp claws and started working with their families as a unit. Actually, they did not have to dig very deep, about 3 to 4 meters would suffice. But there were no shovels or excavators, so they had to rely on their hands, so the difficulty was quite high. She ordered the males to do things, so as compensation, Gu Mingming naturally had to take care of the females. Luckily, these females were Gu Mingming's fans, so they pestered Gu Mingming for no other reason than to tell her stories. But this time they did not want to listen to Wuxia Jin's story. They wanted to listen to Snake's story. Gu Mingming's experience in the Snake King Valley had been spread like wildfire, but there was no fixed version. The more it was spread, the more outrageous it became, making everyone itch for it. It was a rare chance, so they naturally pestered Gu Mingming to listen to the real version. Gu Mingming could not resist everyone's enthusiasm, so she started telling the story from the second she opened her eyes in the Snake King Valley. How did she enter, she could not say, because she had promised Ian not to let others know that she had climbed on his back. When she talked about how Ellie wanted to kill her, all the females looked at Gu Mingming with reddened eyes, as if they were about to cry. They said angrily, if not for the messenger's kindness in taking her in, she would have been snatched away by the stray beasts. How could she be so vicious? She was clearly a complete female, but still disguised herself as a half-orc female to sneak into the tribe. She did not have good intentions from the start. I was wondering why she kept going to Sandy's house, so she went there to sow discord. Luckily Sandy did not fall for it, or else. Gu Mingming listened to everyone's comments and did not give any response. Hate Allie? Far from it. They just had different standpoints. She could only blame herself for being too weak, for not being able to protect her children and even sacrificing herself. She had almost caused Elvis and Leah to suffer the backlash of the mating contract. Moreover, he was already dead, so whatever grievances he had should be in the past. Gu Mingming felt that it was not worth fighting with a dead person, because no matter how much you hated her, you did not have the ability to snatch her back from the hands of the King of Hell and kill her again. The topic was a little off topic, and the females were in a heated discussion. There were 19 females here. It was comparable to an agricultural wholesale market. Gu Mingming did not have the intention to pull them back to the main topic of discussion and let them scold Ellie with righteous indignation. It wasn't until a cheer came from the male digging the well that the discussion of the females came to an abrupt end. Gu Mingming stood up and walked to the edge of the well. She looked down and smiled. Chapter 732. Without bricks, Gu Mingming brought her men to fetch 2 large stone slabs. She then instructed Elvis and Leah to demonstrate how to cut the stone slabs into evenly sized stones, before placing them at the mouth of the well. Leah had seen a well in solder before, so he more or less knew what to do next, so Gu Mingming did not have to worry. Once everything was settled, the lack of water in Saint Nazaire would no longer exist. The entire tribe's atmosphere became livelier with the successful excavation of this well. As the days passed, the fact that Saint Nazaire did not lack water gradually became the eye of a storm. Jealousy spread endlessly. From stealing water on a small scale, to robbing in broad daylight without any scruples. Yes, Saint Nazaire had Elvis and Leah to hold the fort, and even Oriton and Ian were ruthless characters who could easily kill one another. But in order to prevent their own females from being wronged, so what if they had to sacrifice their lives? Not a single blade of grass grew by the side of a well, and the thick stench of blood permeated the ground. If not for the fact that Gu Mingming had tasted blood when she drank the water, she would never have known what kind of conflict had arisen from a water well that was supposed to be a blessing. When Gu Mingming brought Elvis and Leah to the side of the well, she did not know which tribe was fighting with Oriton. The other party was clearly not Oriton's match, and was already being stepped on by Oriton. If this claw were to land again, the other party's intestines would be pierced through. Stop. Gu Mingming frowned and walked over. Seeing the person, Oriton stopped what he was doing and walked to Gu Mingming's side, dutifully playing the role of a bodyguard. That person who was beaten to the ground squinted his eyes, as if he could not see clearly. After staring for a long time, he suddenly froze, then flipped over and prostrated on the ground, his entire being filled with fear and trepidation. Gu Mingming was a little surprised. Just now when he was almost beaten to death by Oriton, he still had an unyielding look. Why did his face change the moment he appeared? Could it be that Snake's domineering aura was revealed again? Great messenger. I just wanted to find some water for my female to drink. I deserve to die for offending the great messenger. Please don't vent your anger on Shaku, just punish me. I beg you. Gu Mingming chuckled, feeling helpless. The only thing that could make these unyielding males in the beast world cower for a second was their females. Gu Mingming walked to the well and sat down. She lowered her head and looked into the well. The water level did not seem to decrease at all. This well was obviously connected to an underground water vein. The water could be said to be endless, so there was no need to risk his life to guard it. It was meaningless. However, the location of the well was within Saint Nazir. If anyone were to casually enter to collect water, it would affect the sovereignty of the territory. Saint Nazir was won back by Elvis and Leah after risking their lives. Even if she could not expand the territory, there was no reason for her to give it away to others. Thinking about this, Gu Mingming lowered her head to look at the male who was still crawling on the ground and asked, "Is there a witch doctor in your tribe?" The male shuddered, thinking that perhaps this was the time for divine punishment. It didn't matter as long as Shako wasn't implicated. Gritting his teeth, he nodded and replied, "Reporting to Lord Emissary, our tribe has a witch doctor." Chapter 733. The male lifted his head, looking at Gu Mingming in shock and confusion, asking if there was a witch doctor, not to sacrifice him to the heavens but to throw the game? Gu Mingming's expression was indifferent as she continued, "The witch doctor is a member of the clergy and is considered my subordinate. I allowed them to use my name to benefit the various tribes, but other than the witch doctor, anyone who entered Saint Nazir without permission would be treated as an intruder and be exiled and slaughtered. Furthermore, the tribe's right to collect water would be permanently revoked. Do you hear me?" Yes, I heard you clearly." The male kowtowed to Gu Mingming fiercely twice, then ran back with a body full of injuries. Gu Mingming sighed and looked at Leah and Elvis. She said helplessly, "Why did you make such a good well look like a murder scene?" Elvis frowned and pursed his lips. After deliberating for a long while, he slowly said, "What if you don't have enough water to drink after giving them?" Gu Mingming chuckled and asked, "Is it because of this that you guys risked your lives to get water?" Elvis nodded. "This well concerns the lives of all the females in the tribe. The males must protect it with their lives." Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and asked, "Why didn't you tell me that someone came to snatch it?" Elvis sighed softly and said, "I don't want to annoy you over such a small matter." Gu Mingming smiled and asked, "Yeah, then if I don't know, are you guys planning to keep killing everyone who comes here for water?" Elvis nodded solemnly and sincerely. Gu Mingming was speechless. "Leah, why didn't you stop him?" Leah shrugged. "Why should I stop him? If they had come to beg me nicely, I might have been able to accommodate them. But since they want to steal and rob, we naturally can't let them off." Gu Mingming was also helpless. It seemed like there was no such rule in the beast world where begging for help did not exist. Whatever they fancied, they would snatch it openly. Waving his hand, he said, "Forget it, inform the nearby tribes to send witch doctors to Saint Nazir to discuss if they need water. If there are any more intruders, they will be dealt with in contempt of the divine authority." "Yes, sir," Oriton answered and then left. He was the protector of the emissary, so it was natural for him to arrange such matters as conveying orders. Gu Mingming clicked her tongue and said, "The ground is full of blood, it looks quite horrifying." Elvis carried Gu Mingming back into his arms and kissed her little face, saying, "I'll get someone to bring fresh soil from somewhere else to plow the ground." Gu Mingming nodded and followed Elvis and Leah back into the cave. The witch doctor was handed over to Leah to handle. Gu Mingming was happy to have some free time as she accompanied her 3 sons to sunbathe on a huge rock. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. The news of the Eye of Life in the Saint Nazir tribe and the messenger of the beast deity allowing the witch doctors of each tribe to collect water spread like wildfire in the beast world. To Gu Mingming it was just a small matter that was not worth mentioning, but it raised her reputation to another level in the beast world, to the extent that it was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. One day, when Leah was organizing the witch doctors who queued up to fetch water from the well, a head suddenly popped out from the well. Chapter 734. Li's sharp claws were already swinging towards that head, not to slice off his head, but to pull him out from the well. Blood could not be seen here. What would Ming Ming drink if the water source was polluted? But that head was very cautious. Once it saw Leah approaching, it immediately shrunk back. Then there was the sound of water splashing, followed by the sound of water splashing. Leah frowned, feeling impatient. If he drowned to death in the well, the water in the well would all be polluted. Stepping forward, Leah leaned over the mouth of the well and looked down. A stream of water shot out from the bottom of the well. As fast as lightning, Leah dodged in a panic, but his face was still scratched by the water. A drop of blood dripped down from the side of his face. Leah frowned, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Ming Ming had praised this face many times, but it was actually injured by him. Looking again, when Leah looked at the mouth of the well, it was as if he was looking at a dead person. "I want to see the messenger of the beast deity." A voice came from the bottom of the well, echoing through the emptiness caused by the sound amplification effect of the walls of the well. "Who are you?" Leah asked in a low voice. His tone was so calm that it seemed nonchalant, but the other witch doctors standing beside him were drenched in cold sweat, their hearts beating like drums, and they were terrified. The person in the well did not speak again, only the sound of water splashing could be heard. His meaning was obvious: if the messenger of the beast deity did not come, he would monopolize this well, and no one could hope to get a drop of water from here. The well was very important, but Gu Ming Ming was more important. Leah would definitely not allow this aggressive person of unknown origin to get close to Gu Ming Ming. So this matter was suppressed by Leah. The witch doctors from the various tribes did not manage to get any water, but did not dare to say anything, waiting for Leah to think of a way to get that fellow out of the water. But how long could he hide it? Gu Ming Ming found it strange that the water supply at home was starting to run out. By right, the well was located on the underground water vein, so it should not have dried up. Why was there no water at home? When she brought the children to Sandy's house to play, she realized that there was no water at home too. Sandy's mouth was so dry that it felt like it was going to explode, and he lay there weakly, not wanting to move. Seeing that Gu Ming Ming had arrived, he forced himself to sit up. "You don't have water in your house either?" Sandy nodded and said, "Colin went to the well 2 days ago, and when he came back he didn't look too good. I asked what was going on, but he didn't tell me, only saying that there was no water for the time being." "Gu Ming Ming, do you know what happened to the well? Did you run out of water?" Gu Ming Ming shook her head and said, "I don't know what's going on either, but Leah and Elvis are behaving strangely. The moment I mentioned the well, they immediately changed the topic, and it was obvious that they were intentionally stopping me from going over." Sandy tugged at Gu Ming Ming's arm and asked, "Why don't we dig another one? I'm so thirsty." Gu Ming Ming patted Sandy's little hand and said, "Why don't you accompany me to the well to see what's going on? If there's really no water, we'll dig another one." Upon hearing that there was water to drink, Sandy's eyes immediately lit up. Without a second word, she stood up and pulled Gu Ming Ming towards the well. Then, Gu Ming Ming was a little shocked. Who the hell had dug up St. Nazir like a whack-a-mole game area? This. Sandy was also very surprised. She looked at Gu Ming Ming and both of them were speechless. Chapter 735. Gu Ming Ming let go of Sandy's hand and told her to stay where she was and not move. Sandy nodded obediently and stretched her neck to look at Gu Ming Ming. Gu Ming Ming walked to the side of the well and waited before patting the huge rock. If it was in the past, she would definitely give up. But now, with one slap, the huge rock flew far away and landed on the ground with a thud, creating a cloud of dust. Gu Ming Ming stuck her head into the well, and before she could see anything clearly, a stream of water shot out. Thanks to Snake, Gu Ming Ming's body reacted faster than her eyes, and she dodged it with a slight tilt to the side. And in that brief glimpse, the person at the bottom of the well also saw Gu Ming Ming's face. After a moment of silence, a cautious and probing voice came from the bottom of the well. "Are you the messenger of the beast deity?" There was someone? Gu Ming Ming's first reaction was that someone had fallen into the well. Was this a scene from the Qing dynasty? Throwing someone into the well and pinning him down with a rock? Destroying the corpse and erasing the evidence? But that was not right either. Whether it was Saint Nazir or the surrounding tribes, who did not treat this well as their lifeblood. There were so many ways to kill someone, who would destroy this well just for one person. "Who are you?" Gu Ming Ming did not answer but asked back. Slowly, a head rose from the bottom of the well. His bright and radiant eyes carried a tinge of unfamiliarity and caution as he sized Gu Mingming up from the side of the well. After a long while, he spoke again. "May I ask, are you the messenger of the beast deity?" Gu Mingming had seen countless handsome men ever since she came to the beast world. Not mentioning the others, just the 3 men with the mark on her body were definitely the most handsome men. But even so, when she saw that pair of eyes, Gu Mingming was still dazed. It had nothing to do with lust or any other factors, just that, it was as if through that pair of eyes, one could see the entire galaxy flowing in front of them. It was dazzling and eye-catching but without a trace of filth. It was so clean that one could not help but want to protect it, not wanting any speck of dust to taint its purity. Gu Mingming was willing to believe that the owner of such a pair of eyes was not a bad person. Gu Mingming could not help but soften her voice by an octave, as if she was coaxing her son. "Yes, I'm the messenger of the beast deity, Gu Mingming. What about you? Who are you and why are you in the well?" The owner of the eyes slowly stretched out his hands and leaned against the wall of the well. His little head poked out of the well. He pursed his lips and said, "I am Prince Fei Rui of the mermaid race." Fei Rui's face was the type that made people want to protect him. It was not an exaggeration to say that Fei Rui could stimulate Gu Mingming's maternal love more than the 4 steamed buns. Her eyes were like cold stars, her nose was round and straight, and her lips were a light pink. She pursed her lips lightly like a child who had been wronged. Her face was round and had a baby face feel to it. There were no edges or corners on her face. Her whole person was round and cute. "Mermaids?" Gu Mingming laughed softly and asked, "So you don't have legs and can't walk on land?" Fei Rui was stunned and shook his head. "I'm a second-rank beast man, I can take human form." However, the emissary said that to enter without permission is to defy the authority of the gods. So I didn't dare to come out. Chapter 736. Fei Rui reached out his little hand timidly. He was clearly afraid but he still chose to believe in Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming's heart melted from his cuteness. She grabbed Fei Rui's hand and pulled him out of the well. Actually, she didn't need much strength because Fei Rui could have come out himself. He just needed permission. "Thank you." Fei Rui was extremely obedient. When he smiled, he showed his canine teeth just like the neighbor's younger brother. His hand was cold. This feeling was very similar to Snake's. Gu Mingming's eyes dimmed. She knew that Snake was living well now but she couldn't suppress that longing. Gu Mingming brought Fei Rui back to her cave. Sandy was worried about Gu Mingming being alone with this strange male, so she followed them back. Fei Rui seemed to be very curious about everything. Along the way he kept looking around wanting to ask and touch everything, but he could not bear to let go of that first touch of warmth. Just like that, he followed Gu Mingming into the cave and sat obediently at the side with both hands on his knees. His starry eyes stared at Gu Mingming without blinking, as if he was a good student who was listening to a teacher's lecture. "Why were you in the well?" Gu Mingming was like a teacher who favored good students. Her tone of voice was extremely gentle. Fei Rui pursed his lips and said bashfully, "I wanted to use that stream but it dried up. So I could only swim here from the underground river. I saw that strange exit and came up. Then I was attacked. After I retaliated, that strange exit was sealed shut." Fei Rui sounded more and more aggrieved. Gu Mingming wanted to hug him and buy him a cotton candy to comfort his wounded heart. "So you came to find me, right?" Gu Mingming asked again. Fei Rui nodded. Under Gu Mingming's expectant and encouraging gaze he said, "I know where the kiss of the ocean is. Can I exchange wishes?" Kiss of the ocean. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat. She was actually feeling very conflicted. On one hand, she wanted to use the 5 treasures to exchange for Qixuan. On the other hand, she felt that it was a very dangerous thing to give the 5 treasures to Cole. Subconsciously, she wished that she could never find them. But now that it had delivered itself to his doorstep, perhaps this was the will of the heavens. Gu Mingming calmed herself down and said, "Yeah, of course you can. Tell me your wish." Fei Rui intertwined his fingers and took a few deep breaths. Then, he raised his head and looked at Gu Mingming with determination. "Can you make me one of your partners?" Puff. Gu Mingming almost choked on her own saliva. He looked at Fei Rui not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "You like me?" Fei Rui lowered his head and thought for a moment before shaking his head. "I don't know what it means to like someone, but I need your strength to protect my sister." Before Gu Mingming could ask further, 2 shadows had already closed in. Gu Mingming landed on a broad chest. Looking up, she met a pair of blue eyes. "If you want to mate with Xiaomeng, you need to challenge her partner. Do you want to challenge Leah or me?" Elvis's expression was cold, neither angry nor warm, but it was filled with a sinister sharpness that made one's back break out in cold sweat. Chapter 737. Gu Mingming stood up and stood in front of Fei Rui. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at Elvis and Leah. No matter how she looked at it, it felt like she was being bullied in school. It was like a gangster going to a junior high school to extort a student. Anyone with a sense of justice would not stand by and do nothing. You two are a level 5 beast and a peak level 3 beast. Is there any meaning in bullying a level 2 beast? Fei Rui is a mermaid. When he's out of the water, he's not even as powerful as a level 1 beast on land. Even if you two win, do you feel any sense of accomplishment? Not only did Gu Mingming's protection fail to save Fei Rui, it even caused Elvis and Lee's faces to darken. Elvis placed his large hand on Lee's shoulder and pulled him behind him. He then stood up and walked towards Gu Mingming with a dark expression. You like him? Gu Mingming sighed. Fei Rui is still a child. Elvis scooped Gu Mingming into his arms and carried her with one arm. Then he pointed at Fei Rui and said, second-level beast, an adult, not a child. Here it comes again. In Elvis's eyes, all the males in the world seemed to have an affair with Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming said helplessly, he came to me to present a treasure, he wants the reward for saving his sister. Elvis's face was still black as he said, yeah, the way to save his sister is to mate with you. Gu Mingming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He has been living in the ocean all year round and has never seen the world. He doesn't know that there are thousands of ways to save people. If his motive is just to save his sister, we can actually provide him with other solutions, right? Elvis did not back down and said, but he has already requested to mate with you, so either Leah or I have to accept the challenge. Gu Mingming face-palmed, feeling rather helpless. Looking at Fei Rui's confused and guarded expression, Gu Mingming felt like she was a vicious stepmother who was abusing Cinderella. As for Elvis and Leah, they were probably Cinderella's elder and second elder sisters. Gu Mingming looked helplessly at Elvis and Leah, who were as cold as ice, and said, we still have to inspect the goods first, right? What if he couldn't take out the kiss of the ocean? Then there's no need to mention the reward, right? Elvis did not speak, but his heavy breathing showed that he was angry, very angry, very angry. Leah wagged his tail and placed an arm on Elvis's shoulder. He looked at Gu Mingming with a slightly aggrieved expression and said, you just want to protect him, right? Gu Mingming was rendered speechless by Lee's words. She stammered and said, look, Fei Rui left his hometown to deliver news to us. We can't possibly bully him because he's a foreigner, right? How unfriendly, isn't it? Leah held Gu Mingming's hand and gently touched his own face. He became even more aggrieved and said, but he almost ruined my face the moment he came. If I was disfigured and scarred, you would not like me anymore. I can't take this lying down. Are you not going to stand up for me? Gu Mingming's brain froze for a few seconds, feeling as if she had walked into the wrong theater. But, pardon me for asking, this is the carefree beast world, right? It can't be a certain legend or a certain branch of lust, right? Seeing Lee's I feel so wronged expression, Gu Mingming was stunned for a long time before she said, so the person who attacked Fei Rui and blocked the well with a rock was you? Chapter 738. Sorry, I apologize. A tiny voice rang out softly from the corner. Lee's face froze. He turned to look at the sincere yet timid Fei Rui. Why did he feel like he had been made a fool of? If he were to apologize like that, it would make his actions seem especially unreasonable. Leah clenched his teeth and tossed out a sentence. Green tea bitch. Gu Mingming laughed. She recalled how she had taught Leah and Elvis about the basic concepts of green tea bitches and white lotus flowers in the past. She felt much better. She started to understand why when girls scolded others as green tea bitches, their boyfriends would look at her with a, you are being unreasonable, expression. Actually, she really did not have any improper thoughts towards a little puppy like Fei Rui. Gu Mingming knew that she could not bring herself to do something like harming the flower of her country. Gu Mingming hugged Lee's face and kissed him. She smiled. You look very handsome when you are jealous. But I prefer you when you are full of confidence. Leah glanced sideways at Fei Rui. His lips curled up slightly. He did not say a word. But Gu Mingming could clearly see the flaunting and provocation on his face. That expression had already vividly displayed his classic line of, Mingming's heart is always on our side. Leah used to treat Snake like that too. But at least Snake was a powerful adult male. Treating Fei Rui like that seemed like making a mountain out of a molehill. But to be treasured and nervous by her own male, yeah, this feeling was actually not bad. How could Leah allow Gu Mingming to leave after a perfunctory kiss in front of his love rival? Cupping the back of her head with one hand, he brought her lips back to his mouth and kissed her deeply. He kissed her until Gu Mingming lost all her energy and lay limp as if she had no bones. Only then did he release her reluctantly. He gently lifted her little chin, and his long and blurry eyes were filled with satisfaction. The corners of his lips curled into a seductive smile as he said, "Indulging my jealousy. How should I repay you? Why don't you devote your life to me?" Gu Mingming realized that she was becoming more and more sensitive in terms of relationships. A soul that had been lonely for thousands of years yearned for gentleness. And because of this, she could not control herself in the face of Li's teasing. She pretended to slap Leah and raised her head. "You've been mine since a long time ago. The mark is on my ear. You want to repay me with something that belongs to me? Only you can think of that." Leah placed one arm on Elvis's shoulder and the other gently caressed the fox mark on Gu Mingming's left ear. A tinge of happiness shone in his eyes. Chuckling, Leah licked his lower lip with the tip of his tongue and looked at Gu Mingming covetously. "Gu Mingming, say that again." Say what?" Gu Mingming's face was so red that she could not even breathe evenly. She was in Elvis's arms but she was flirting with Leah in public. What the hell was going on? It's so embarrassing, but my heart is beating really fast. Say I'm yours. Li's lips inched closer, almost touching the tip of her nose. Gu Mingming shrunk into Elvis's arms shyly. She blushed and said softly, You're mine." Leah pecked Gu Mingming's lips lightly. Then he moved his lips to Gu Mingming's left ear. His warm breath landed on her ear and he whispered in a hoarse voice. Word by word, he landed on Gu Mingming's heart. "These are the most touching words of love that I've ever heard. I'm yours, you can take whatever you want. Aside from the topic." Chapter 739. Gu Mingming felt as though her heart was about to jump out of her chest. She quickly pushed Leah away and buried her blushing face into Elvis's chest, not saying a word. But Leah was smiling brightly. He poked Gu Mingming's little head from behind and said, "All right, come out quickly. I won't tease you anymore. Elvis will kill me if I hold it in for too long." The more Leah poked her, the more Gu Mingming tried to hide. She really felt a little embarrassed. It would have been fine if it was just Sandy, but that Fei Rue was also there. He was still a child. Was it really alright to flirt in front of a child? Elvis looked at the interaction between Leah and Gu Mingming and only smiled gently and helplessly. Luckily, compared to Fei Rue, that little white flower of unknown origins, Gu Mingming clearly preferred Leah, that flirtatious B*TCH. It seemed like there would not be another family member at home. This made Elvis heave a sigh of relief. He then looked at Fei Rue, who did not seem to be the least bit jealous of Gu Mingming and Li's flirting. He just stared blankly at them as though the doors to a new world had been opened. That pair of eyes, they were really so clean that they did not seem like something that should exist in this world. Elvis raised his free hand and placed it on Li's shoulder. Enough is enough. Leah was also observing Fei Rue. He realized that although he had requested to mate with Gu Mingming, he did not seem to know much about it. Or rather, he did not have any intentions towards Gu Mingming. After testing him out, he exchanged glances with Elvis. They both placed Fei Rue on the second-level danger list that needed to be observed but did not require any special precautions. And the ones who remained on the first-level danger list were still Sandy and the four little ones. As for the people on the second-level danger list, apart from the first-level danger list, everyone else was on the second-level danger list. Leah made a big pot of boiled meat slices. The ingredients were naturally provided by Oriton, who always appeared at mealtimes. As Sandy was a foodie, she completely blocked out Li's and Elvis's "why aren't you leaving" gaze when she saw the big pot of food. She held Gu Mingming's little hand and sat beside her, eating contentedly. It was Fei Rue's first time seeing a land beast man eating. He felt it was novel, but he wasn't surprised. Looking at them eating in full swing, he also had an urge to try. Gu Mingming pulled his hand that was about to reach into the pot. She shook her head and said, "This is very hot. You will get hurt if you hold it with your hands." Fei Rue lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong. He looked at the fragrant meat in the pot and swallowed his saliva, looking a little pitiful. Gu Mingming used a pair of chopsticks to pick up a few pieces of meat, then placed them in clear water to rinse off the chili. She passed the chopsticks and bowl to Fei Rue with a smile. "Here, this is for you." Fei Rue's eyes lit up. His radiant smile made Gu Mingming feel as though she was in the galaxy. Unknowingly, she was infected by him and returned the same smile. But this interaction made Li's vinegar jar overturn. Holding Gu Mingming's little face, Leah kissed her and swallowed the piece of meat in her mouth that had yet to be swallowed. Chapter 740. After lunch, Oriton was in charge of cleaning the kitchen waste and washing the pots. Sandy could not stand Leah and Elvis's dark faces and secretly chasing them away, so they all left. Then Fei Rui sat in a corner facing Gu Mingming, who was all smiles, and Elvis and Leah, who were standing on his left and right. It felt like a three-division joint hearing. Gu Mingming had always been patient with beautiful children, so she smiled and said, "All right, now let's talk about serious matters. What happened to your sister? Why do you need me to rescue her?" At the mention of his sister, Fei Rui's face was filled with worry. He pursed his lips and said, "My sister is the prettiest little princess in the mermaid tribe. She is smart and kind. But because of this, she incurred the jealousy of Dora. Dora stole the giant fish tribe's treasure and framed my sister, so the leader of the giant fish tribe, Carter, kidnapped my sister." Gu Mingming frowned and sighed. A woman's jealousy could sometimes be very crazy and unreasonable. "Then what do you want me to do? If it's in the sea, even I have limited battle powers. Elvis may be a 5th-level beast, but he can't use his full power underwater." Gu Mingming did not want to stand by and watch, but just wanted to lay out the reality of the situation. If the person who had the power of a beast king was Snake instead of herself, she could easily agree to Fei Rui's request. As long as Snake made a trip to the deep sea, the giant fish tribe would obediently hand over the person without needing to do anything. But although she had Snake's power, she was after all not a snake. Breathing and battling underwater were extremely limited to her. She could kill people in a frenzy, but saving people, Gu Mingming knew that she did not have the ability to do so. She did not want to give Fei Rui false hope and then shatter it, so the best way was to tell him the truth. Fei Rui shook his head and said, "Although I really want to save my sister, I will not risk the great messenger's life. You are the hope of the entire beast world, nothing must happen to you." This sentence pleased Elvis and Leah. Their hostility towards him had lessened, and even the temperature in the cave seemed to have risen a lot. Then, Gu Mingming guided Fei Rui to continue. Fei Rui clenched his fists tightly and placed them on his knees. He raised his head, and his eyes that were as bright as the stars were filled with determination. "So, Lord Messenger, please accept me as your partner. In this way I will become the link between you and the sea tribes. At that time the giant fish clan will definitely return my sister to me." Gu Mingming understood what he was thinking. The kiss of the ocean was the dowry for his younger sister, who was willing to marry him. Gu Mingming smiled and shook her head. She reached out to stroke Fei Rui's little head. "So are you planning to use my name to bully others?" Fei Rui was startled, and a guilty blush appeared on his face. He bit his lower lip and nodded with difficulty. Chapter 741. Gu Mingming tapped her fingers rhythmically on Elvis's arm. This was a sign that she was in deep thought. Actually, Elvis and Leah had countless methods to settle such a small matter. Although there might be some unexpected situations in the ocean, Elvis and Leah were too good at forcing someone to hand over something. Elvis and Leah were too good at it. However, they didn't say much. They were willing to wait for the little woman to come up with an unreliable or very roundabout method. Then they would let her try it. Even if she stabbed the sky down, the two of them would hold it up for her. Being able to clean up the mess for his female was the value of a male's existence. He really missed the times when she used her power to bully others. In that case, he was starting to miss Nina. Gu Mingming's tapping fingers suddenly stopped. Her lips curled into a sly smile. "Since it's so troublesome to find a specific fish in the ocean, why don't we let this fish come to us on its own?" Fei Rui tilted his head, his bright eyes filled with confusion. Gu Mingming chuckled. "The female Dora of the mermaid tribe has found the treasure that the messenger of the beast deity needs. As long as you bring it to me, I can fulfill a wish." Leah and Elvis exchanged a smile. How could their little female be so adorable when she was lying to others? Her large eyes were filled with a sly smile. It was mischievous but very seductive. Fei Rui didn't understand Gu Mingming's plan. He shook his head. Dora did steal the treasure of the giant fish tribe, but it wasn't the kiss of the ocean. Gu Mingming was tickled by Fei Rui's kindness and innocence. She shook her head in exasperation. "You are indeed still a baby. The mutual deceit of the adult world doesn't suit you. Let me do this kind of trickery. You just wait for Dora to bring the treasure back, then go and exchange it for your sister." Fei Rui didn't understand Gu Mingming's plan. But he felt that these three people before him had a certain kind of power. Her words didn't need any other evidence to convince him. Gu Mingming went through this plan a few more times in her mind. She thought of a few ways to complement each other. Then she stretched lazily and looked at Fei Rui. "Are you all right leaving the water for a long time?" Fei Rui blinked his bright eyes and nodded. "Actually, I still feel very uncomfortable," Gu Mingming said. "Then why don't you go soak in the well first?" Fei Rui's eyes lit up as he asked with anticipation. "Can I?" Leah said, "No." Gu Mingming. Leah gave Gu Mingming a reproachful look and she immediately shut her mouth. What a joke if her family's vinegar jar were to be overturned. Fei Rui would be the one to make a dish of fish with vinegar sauce. Leah said, "The well is the drinking water source for all of us in the tribe. If you soak in it, do you want everyone in the tribe to drink your bathwater? You should return to the sea and wait for news. When that Dora comes looking for us, we will inform you." Fei Rui's eyes dimmed again. He looked like a bullied child as he bit his lower lip and said, "I'm not going into the well. It's fine even if I don't soak in the water. I'll wait for you to return to the sea with me." Chapter 742. Fei Rui was stunned for a moment before shaking his head. "No way, you must follow me back to the ocean." Leah sneered and his gaze turned sharp. He emphasized each word. "No way? Must? Who do you think you are?" Fei Rui was frightened by Li's aura. He shrunk his neck and avoided Li's gaze. He only looked at Gu Mingming. "I know where the kiss of the ocean is, but I can't take it out. The great messenger must go there personally." "Oh?" Leah clearly did not believe him. Once in the water, he and Elvis would be in a useless state. They had experienced the feeling of helplessness in the Snake King Valley once and they did not want to experience it again. Fei Rui panicked. He suddenly realized that his ability to organize his words was very problematic. The more he tried to explain, the more he could not speak clearly. In the end, he almost bit his own tongue but still could not come up with a clear explanation. Gu Mingming looked at Fei Rui, who was as anxious as a child who could not find his homework. She took the initiative to stroke his head and smiled. "Don't worry, don't panic. Speak slowly." Strangely, Gu Mingming had the ability to calm people down. Fei Rui looked at Gu Mingming's clear eyes and nodded slowly. He slowly calmed his chaotic emotions due to Li's aura. He took 2 deep breaths before speaking. "The kiss of the ocean is a pearl. It is in the forbidden abyss of the mermaid tribe and is protected by an old muscle spirit. The only person who made him willingly hand over the kiss of the ocean was the previous messenger of the beast deity. Although I don't know why the previous messenger returned the kiss of the ocean, but for the past 1,000 years so many people have set their sights on the kiss of the ocean. But not a single person could enter the forbidden abyss." Gu Mingming was a little confused. An old muscle spirit? Another monster that had lived for over 1,000 years? The beast king of the ocean? Didn't Snake say that he was the only beast king in the beast world? What was wrong with this fellow? Gu Mingming thought about it and shifted the focus to a more normal topic. "The forbidden abyss?" Fei Rui nodded. "I heard from the elders that it was not a forbidden area in the past. It only became a forbidden area after the previous messenger placed the kiss of the ocean back. The previous messenger cast a spell there and no one can enter. Wasn't the previous messenger Snake sometimes amusing and sometimes cold-blooded split mother? He could even cast spells?" Gu Mingming did not really believe it. This was because Snake's inherited memories also contained his father's memories. From the time his father interacted with Wang Xiaoxin, she was just a psychologist who was proficient in some things from the Book of Changes. Casting spells and setting up arrays were so fantastical that they could only exist in investiture of the gods. She didn't have such skills. Gu Mingming rubbed her chin, thinking. But Elvis pinched her little face, his blue eyes staring straight at Gu Mingming. "You're not allowed to go." "But, no buts. In the sea, Leia and I can't protect you." "It's too dangerous, you can't go," Elvis insisted. Gu Mingming thought for a while and suddenly laughed. "You don't have to worry about my safety if I bring along a bodyguard who is good at fighting in the water." Elvis frowned and asked, "Who?" Chapter 743. Elvis frowned and thought for a long time. He filtered through all the people around Gu Mingming, but could not think of anyone who matched Gu Mingming's 2 points and was reliable. But Leah was crafty and smiled knowingly. "You mean Wabi-Ai?" Gu Mingming nodded. "Bingo," Leah thought about it and nodded. If it's him, his battle power is indeed guaranteed. After all, he was a snake trained by Snake for over 800 years. He would be able to crush anyone he placed him in. But, He treats you as his love rival? Could it be? Leah looked at Elvis suggestively as he spoke. The fur on Elvis's tail stood on end. He gritted his teeth. It's not me. Leah shrugged. It's not me either. Gu Mingming covered her mouth and laughed. It's Snake. Lee's eyes sparkled as he asked. He had an affair with Snake? Gu Mingming shook her head. Failed. Elvis looked at the mark on the back of Gu Mingming's neck and suddenly felt that Snake was very pitiful. Clearing his throat, he said, If it's him, it's indeed not a problem to ensure your safety. But, will he be willing to accompany you? Gu Mingming stretched out her hand and gently caressed the back of her neck. Her expression was indifferent. If it's a fake emperor's edict, he won't reject it. Elvis paused and said, You want to tell him that Snake asked him to accompany you? Gu Mingming nodded. Leah kissed Gu Mingming's little face. You are still so gentle. There are thousands of ways to make him listen to you, but you chose the one that gives him a sliver of hope. Gu Mingming chuckled. I just don't like how he looks like Snake's widow, so I wanted to make fun of him. Leah did not force Gu Mingming to admit it. He just pinched her little nose. Snake will probably be overjoyed if he hears this. He must think that you are jealous. Thinking back to how Snake wooed her in the modern world with the beast deity, Gu Mingming suddenly felt much more relaxed. He probably doesn't have time to be happy right now. I'll definitely spare no effort to make things difficult for him. Who told him to make the decision to die on his own? He made me sad for so long. Punishing him is a must. Leah rubbed Gu Mingming's little head and did not continue the topic of Snake. He and Elvis were very clear that even if Mingming's condition was much better now, her guilt towards Snake was still buried in the deepest part of her heart and it would still hurt when touched. If we want Wabi to come with us, we might have to move as soon as possible. After the dry season it will be the rainy season. At that time, we will have to start stockpiling food for the winter and Wabi will also have to prepare for hibernation. We don't have much time. We can't drag this out for too long. Elvis was more than willing to let Gu Mingming throw herself into something so that she would not have time to let her imagination run wild. Whether it was Snake, Qixuan or coal, it would be best if she could push all these things to the back of her mind. He didn't allow her to go because he was worried about her safety. Now that there was a solution, he naturally wouldn't stop her. Gu Mingming nodded with a bitter smile. Looks like we have to entrust our sons to Sandy again. If these three fellows stay at Sandy's place all the time, I wonder if it will affect their marriage. Chapter 744. After the plan was finalized, he no longer hesitated. After all, time was really tight. Gu Mingming handed the three children over to Sandy and felt rather apologetic. But Sandy was very happy. She felt that Gu Mingming had entrusted the child to her because she trusted her. This meant that Gu Mingming still treated her as a friend. The three little ones only knew that their mother was going to collect the ransom for Qixuan. They were all very sensible and said that they would train themselves well at home and wait obediently for their mother to return. Elvis and Leah handed over the tribe's matters to Oriton and Colin. This was a risky move because the two of them had the same personality from a certain point of view, and that was, if they could use their fists they would try not to use their mouths. But Colin's temperament had become much better after he had mated, and Oriton had also been by Gu Mingming's side as the messenger's guard for such a long time. As long as they did not provoke him, there would not be much of a problem. Moreover, everyone knew that these two people had bad tempers. In any case, not many people dared to cause trouble. Everything was ready. Gu Mingming, Elvis and Leah would travel by land, while Ian would travel by air as support. Fei Rui would jump into the well and take the water route back to the seaside to prepare for the rescue. Gu Mingming had walked this path from St. Nazaire to the Snake King Valley. It was just that her state of mind had undergone an earth-shattering change. Now that he was walking the same path again, he felt as if it was a lifetime ago. A few days later, Gu Mingming stood at the entrance of the Snake King Valley. Strangely, she had a feeling of returning home. Perhaps this feeling originated from Snake's memories. After all, this was the place he was most familiar with for 1,000 years. She lifted her feet and entered. The rustling sounds on both sides did not make her stop. Just as she reached the entrance of Snake's cave, she felt a sharp force coming at her from behind. Gu Mingming did not retaliate. Instead, she turned around and smiled at Duya, who was just inches away from her. She waved her hands with her eyebrows arched and said, "Hite, are you going to bite me? If you want to bite me, do it quickly. Don't drip your saliva on me. It's disgusting." With his mouth agape, Wabi felt like he was in a mess. What was this damned female laughing at? Why didn't she just slap him to the ground? Why didn't they follow the rules? This made him feel very awkward with his mouth wide open. Transforming into human form, Wabi looked at Gu Mengmeng in disdain. He frowned and asked, "Why did you come back if you're not going to fight?" Gu Mengmeng chuckled and raised her hand to slap Wabi, sending him flying. With a bang, Wabi crashed into a tree and the tree toppled over, as though it had been snapped in half. Wabi jumped up and rushed to Gu Mengmeng's side. He pointed at Gu Mengmeng's nose furiously. "What are you doing?" Gu Mengmeng shrugged and said, "Sneak attack, all is fair in war, this is war." Wabi was so angry that he spun in circles. "If you want to launch a sneak attack, so be it. Why did you smash the tree?" "He didn't allow us to hit the tree, he said he wouldn't allow it." Gu Mengmeng laughed and said, "He said not to kick the fruit tree because I like it. That tree just now was obviously not a fruit tree and I don't really like it. Don't worry, he won't blame you." Wabi gritted his teeth, suddenly feeling very helpless. He had no way to deal with this female. Gu Mengmeng was the biggest challenge Snake had left for him. "Tell me you didn't come back just to smash a tree, right?" "Digression, Wabi, you can hit me but you can't destroy the tree. If you want to chop the tree you have to do it over my dead body." Gu Mengmeng. Chapter 745. Gu Mengmeng nodded. "Yeah, I want to go to the ocean. Accompany me." Wabi snorted. "Not free. Not going." Gu Mengmeng placed her hands behind her back and said lightly, "Snake asked you to accompany me." The moment he heard the first 3 words, Wabi was stunned. His hands trembled uncontrollably as he stared at the little female who had casually mentioned that name. After a long while he finally found his voice. "If you dare to lie to me I will kill you." Gu Mengmeng smiled innocently. "Don't brag. You can't beat me. I will become a beast king one day." Wabi roared. Gu Mengmeng shrugged. "Even if you become a beast king, you will at most be on par with me. Moreover, you are just a pile of sh*t. Do you think you can become a demon?" Wabi's face flushed with anger. "Are you talking about my looks again?" Actually, in the past 800 years he had always been quite confident of his looks. He had once felt that the only person in this world who was slightly better looking than him was Snake. But ever since this little girl came, his confidence in his looks had been crushed to bits. Now he was traumatized. Especially after accompanying her to St. Nazir and seeing what a 4-legged animal's sh** looked like. Gu Mengmeng circled 3 times with her right hand, then placed it on her chest and did a gentlemanly salute. She then said, "The Honorable President of the Appearance Association, a veteran member of the elite class, a staunch supporter of the idea that looks are justice, I am Gu Mengmeng." "You. What about me?" Gu Mengmeng was clearly fearless. And Wabi really couldn't do anything to her. Wabi flung his hands. He wanted to turn and leave in a suave manner. But he had only taken 1 step when he stopped. Without turning back he turned his back to Gu Mengmeng. His voice was cold. This was his final stubbornness. "When do we set off?" Gu Mengmeng didn't put on airs. "Tomorrow morning." Wabi didn't say another word. He just walked away. To Elvis and Leah, the Snake King Valley was really not a place with beautiful memories. So Gu Mengmeng asked them to wait for her outside the valley. And that night, Gu Mengmeng did not feel sleepy at all. She wandered aimlessly in the Snake King Valley but realized that Snake's shadow was everywhere she went. Apart from the 1 month they spent together, her body also contained thousands of years of memories of him. Wasn't he everywhere she went? A few little snakes led the way for Gu Mengmeng and brought her to the spot where she buried the fruits from the fruit tree that Snake had kicked over. Gu Mengmeng squatted in front of that tender green branch and could not help but smile. She gently stroked the leaf with her fingers and muttered to herself, "A new cycle, a new beginning. Snake, are you living well over there too?" Gu Mengmeng didn't return to the cave and just slept at a spot not far from the little sapling. Before she slept, she instructed the little snake that if she didn't wake up the next morning, Wabi was to carry her away. Elvis and Leah would wait outside for her as they knew where to go. Closing her eyes slowly, Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, "Lonely old man, your filial daughter is back to watch romantic dramas with you." Chapter 746. Daughter, you are back. This conversation should have been accompanied by 2 plates of steaming dumplings and an old man in an apron, and not this smiling person in her early 20s dressed in white. Gu Mengmeng no longer had the energy to criticize the setting of this father and daughter. Who asked her to be the one to use them as a shield? "Lonely old man, I have something to ask you." Gu Mingming was afraid that she would forget about this after watching the television series, so she asked first, "Does Wang Xiaoxi know how to set up an array? Like in Investiture of the Gods?" The beast deity pursed his lips and chuckled. He shook his head in an exceptionally benevolent manner. "She doesn't." Gu Mingming replied. "Oh?" Then Fei Rui said that the kiss of the ocean is in some forbidden abyss and that she had set up some array. The beast deity maintained his benevolent smile of a deity loving the world. He replied, "The array in the forbidden abyss was not set up by Wang Xiaoxin. It was set up by me." Gu Mingming really wanted to spit on his face. But thinking that she had a favor to ask, she held it in. "How do I break it? I want to go in and take the kiss of the ocean." The beast deity replied, "No need to break it. You can just go in." Gu Mingming asked, "Really?" The beast deity replied, "That array is only effective against the ocean tribes. It is useless against other races." Gu Mingming looked at the beast deity suspiciously. "Are you lying?" The beast deity straightened his expression and said, "Immortals cannot lie. I set up that array to prevent the appearance of the treasure, which would cause chaos and no one could control the situation. So I forbade the ocean tribes from bringing it out from the ocean. And the forbidden abyss is in the depths of the ocean. Other than the ocean tribes, no one has the ability to infiltrate there. So I only set up the array to target the ocean tribes." Gu Mingming smiled with her eyes narrowed. She wrapped her arms around the beast deity's arm. "Papa, you will help me, right?" The beast deity looked at Gu Mingming for a while before replying. "Call me Papa when there is something important and call me a lonely old man when there is nothing important. TSK, where did you learn to curry favor with others?" Gu Mingming put on a cheeky face and smiled. "Papa, all the daughters in the world are the same. You're only a good kid when you get pocket money. You have to learn to accept reality." The beast deity thought about it and sighed as if he had accepted his fate. "All right, my good daughter. Watch a TV series with me and I'll give you some pocket money." Gu Mingming nodded and sat down with a face full of joy. "All right, father." With a wave of the beast deity's hand, a part of the white fog cleared away. Gu Mingming was like a bored fairy sitting in the clouds, watching the romantic idol drama between Snake and her other self with great interest. Yes, Snake was in charge of romance and idols, so she could only be in charge of dramas. The bell signaling the start of class had already rung, and the professor was taking attendance on the roll. Gu Mingming sat at the furthest corner of the classroom. This lesson was compulsory and there were about 200 people in the classroom. Because of the scene on the field just now, her heart was in a mess, and she just wanted to find a corner to calm down. However, it was obvious that someone was not willing to let her do as she wished. A slender figure leaned against the door. The sunlight elongated his shadow, pointing straight at a certain ostrich in the classroom. His jade-green eyes carried a hint of playfulness and a lot of pampering. With just one look, he found her in the corner of the classroom. Chapter 747. Gu Mingming. The professor had been looking down at the name list and did not notice that all the female students in the class had fallen into a love-struck atmosphere. When no one responded to his call, the professor was a little displeased. He raised his head and shouted, "Is Gu Mingming here?" "I'm here." Snake raised his hand and walked in from the doorway with graceful and steady steps. This simple word caused an uproar in the classroom. Shock. The coolest school hunk was not a mute. Snake could not see anyone other than Gu Mingming. No matter how crazy the lascivious girls around him were, he only walked towards Gu Mingming step by step. He bent down, satisfied that her gaze was always focused on his face. Curling his devilish lips, he said, "Go in, I will sit at the side for you to look." Gu Mingming then snapped out of her trance and lowered her head hurriedly, saying, "Who's looking at you? You think too highly of yourself." Snake narrowed his eyes with an unhappy expression, saying, "Or do you think I look better when I stand at the door? If you like, I can also stand back there." The students had already started jeering and Gu Mingming's face turned even redder. She could guarantee that if Snake really stood at the classroom door for an entire lesson, she would definitely become public enemy number one. Not knowing what went wrong, Gu Mingming stood up and said to the professor, "Professor, this person is not from our class. He is disrupting the order of the class. Aren't you going to chase him out?" The professor was obviously taken aback when he saw Snake. His brows were tightly knitted together. He originally wanted to keep the peace, but after Gu Mingming's words he had no choice but to ask. So he cleared his throat and asked, "This student, are you from our class?" Snake turned around and smiled politely, saying, "No, I am a family member." With that, without waiting for Gu Mingming's reaction, He had already sat on Gu Mingming's seat. He then looked up at Gu Mingming with a smile, asking, "Sit in there or sit in my arms? It's up to you." You. Gu Mingming's face was as red as a pig's liver. She had originally chosen to sit at the furthest corner in order to remain calm. In front of her was the table and behind her was the wall. The only exit was blocked by Snake. Unless she could fly, she had nowhere else to go. All right. Isn't it just a student who wants to listen in? Don't you have a seat inside? Sit down, don't disturb the class. The professor lectured Gu Mingming at the right time. This made Gu Mingming speechless even if she wanted to retort. Fuming, she shifted inwards and sat against the wall, as if she wished she could pass through the wall. Snake chuckled. This professor's research project was funded by him. It had started 3 years ago. Before the semester started, the research had entered the final critical moment, but he suddenly refused to give the professor any funding. When the professor was in a panic, he arranged for someone to call the professor to his office for a meeting. He was raising a dog after all, it had to know its master. With one hand on the table, Snake smiled at Gu Mingming, who was avoiding him like the plague. He did not like this feeling. Although she was afraid of him in the past, she had never avoided and rejected him like this. With his palm facing upwards, Snake placed his hand on the table and said softly, "Taming." Gu Mingming snorted. She politely declined such a way of addressing her like a dog. Rolling her eyes, she turned her head to the side and ignored Snake. Digression. Today's update was actually stuck on Snake's digression. Although it was not a crucial plot, but to be stuck in such a high sugar content area, the babies would probably not be happy. I was wrong, even so, you guys still have to love me, understand? Chapter 748. How was Snake someone who would allow others to ignore him like that? Especially when that person was Gu Mingming, he would never allow it. So he flipped his hand and placed it on Gu Mingming's arm. Pulling his arm back, Gu Mingming was pulled from her seat into Snake's arms. The commotion was not small, and coupled with the fact that everyone in class was already paying attention to them, it caused a commotion. Gu Mingming blushed furiously as she glared at Snake. "What are you doing? Are you behaving like a hooligan?" But Snake smiled. He liked the way she looked at him. She could be bashful or angry as long as she looked at him. He sat at his original spot lazily and did not move. His lips curled up slightly, clearly in a good mood. He said, "My arms are the safest and most comfortable. It's always better than sitting on that hard bench." Crazy. Gu Mingming scolded softly and was about to stand up. Snake's large hand grabbed onto Gu Mingming's waist and his upper body moved downwards. He used his entire body to hug Gu Mingming, giving her a huge amount of pressure. He squinted his eyes and smiled wickedly. He whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "If you dare to stand up, I will kiss you in front of everyone." Gu Mingming instinctively raised her hands to cover her mouth tightly. She stared at Snake in shock, her face full of wariness, but she could not do anything to him. Snake rubbed Gu Mingming's head and smiled. "Just stay in my arms obediently and look at me." Gu Mingming really wanted to cry, but no tears came out. What was wrong with this mute school hunk who was popular in the whole school? Did he lose in truth or dare? Sob, 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 heavens, earth, which deity will show herself and subdue this demon? Gu Mingming did not dare to stay a second longer. She flipped over the table and ran away. Seeing how she knocked over many tables and chairs along the way and sent many students flying, Snake's lips curled into a doting and indulgent smile. His Taming was living well. She was healthy and could run very fast. Getting up, Snake walked towards the exit of the classroom. A group of girls who had been waiting for the entire lesson finally seized the opportunity and surrounded Snake tightly. They used the time of a lesson to write the love letters on the spot and presented them to Snake. However, Snake frowned and his gaze turned sharp and cold. He didn't even bother to say, "Scram" to them. With a cold expression, he forced back the people in front of him step by step. How annoying! He wasted a full 17 seconds of his time. These 17 seconds were originally enough for him to catch the flustered little rabbit. On the other side, Gu Mingming's mind went blank. She hugged her school bag and escaped into the female toilet. She clearly didn't do anything wrong, but she didn't know why she felt so scared and guilty. Her heart was about to jump out of her throat, but she didn't know what she was afraid of. Her phone rang and Gu Mingming quickly picked it up when she saw that it was a call from her workplace. Before she could say anything, the foreman directly informed her that she no longer needed to go to work from today onwards. He said that the company had redistributed the staff and there was no longer a need for part-time employees. Her salary had already been transferred to her bank account. Then he hung up. Before Gu Mingming could react, another call came in. It was the school dormitory management auntie. She said that someone in her dormitory had violated the rules by cooking, so everyone in her dormitory had been disqualified. Their luggage had all been packed and piled up in the mail room. She was told to take it and leave quickly. Aside. Chapter 749. Gu Mingming squatted in the toilet with her phone and school bag in hand, suddenly feeling dazed. She had looked at her horoscope before leaving the house and it said that today was a good day to confess. But why did bad things happen one after another from the moment she confessed? The bell for class had already rung, but Gu Mingming had no intention of going to class. She lost her job, lost her place to stay. She had some savings on hand and it should be enough to support her until she found a new job. But she had to find a place to stay as soon as possible or she would have to sleep under the bridge tonight. In a daze, Gu Mingming washed her face and encouraged herself in front of the mirror. Then she came out of the toilet and was prepared to look for cheaper girls' shared accommodation near the school. As soon as he walked out of the restroom, he saw a man with a typical European appearance leaning against the wall of the women's restroom. He exuded an irresistible aristocratic aura. Even when he was smiling, he gave off the urge to kneel down and shout, "Long live the king." For no reason, Gu Mingming blushed instinctively. Lowering her head, Gu Mingming turned and ran in the opposite direction. But how could her 2 short legs outrun the other's 2 long legs? Taking a step forward, Snake easily grabbed Gu Mingming's school bag and pulled, causing Gu Mingming to fall backwards. A well-prepared chest caught her firmly and a large hand with distinct joints pinched Gu Mingming's chin. His mischievous gaze was filled with playfulness and the corners of his lips curved into a smile. His voice was clear and cold and every word was like pearls landing on a jade plate, so crisp that no one could ignore it. "You didn't cry?" Gu Mingming was taken aback and thought that Snake was probably referring to the time he hugged her in class. Not daring to provoke this man, Gu Mingming grinned and said, "You lost in truth or dare, right? The punishment is to make me cry? Then, why don't I cooperate and cry a few times?" Snake's face turned cold and he said, "You're not allowed to cry, it's so ugly." "Then I won't cry. Almighty, can you let go?" Gu Mingming looked at Snake with a pleading expression. Snake raised his eyebrows and said, "On what basis?" Gu Mingming choked on the question and was caught off guard and could not answer. He shouldn't have been grabbed like this in the first place. He should have let go, right? "What do you mean by why?" Snake curled his lips and said, "You almost fell and I caught you. You want me to let go of you without thanking me?" Gu Mingming had a look of realization as she hurriedly nodded her head and said, I was muddle-headed and forgot. Almighty, thank you, thank you, thank you." "Do you know who I am?" Snake asked as he firmly held onto Gu Mingming, who was desperately trying to break free. Gu Mingming said with a fawning expression, "Who in the entire university doesn't know you? Your name is like thunder piercing the ears, like the sun in the sky, like, who am I?" "Gu Mingming, the coolest school hunk. What about the name?" Snake was unhappy. Gu Mingming pursed her lips into a straight line, then shook her head slowly and honestly. Snake narrowed his eyes and was obviously angry. Was he not famous enough? In order to occupy the position of Senior Adonis in her heart, he, His Highness Snakel, actually competed with a bunch of useless people in swimming for entertainment. But this heartless girl actually didn't know his name. Chapter 750. Gu Mingming looked at Snake in a daze, her face full of confusion. "I like boys from the swimming club? I don't." Snake sighed, feeling a little depressed, but he still let go of Gu Mingming. In order to gain the status of Senior Prince Charming, Snake had used all sorts of angles to crush that student who should have been worshipped by Gu Mingming until he started to doubt his life. But this girl actually did not like boys who knew how to swim. Did she have to see that person swimming for her to like him? If he had known earlier, he would not have waited for 2 months. He should have captured her back the moment she started school. That way the situation this morning would not have happened. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got when he handed the love letter he had waited for over 10 years to someone else. Gu Mingming could feel the intense resentment emanating from Snake. Step by step, she slowly inched away, wanting to escape. Her phone rang at an untimely time, giving Gu Mingming such a shock that all her hair stood on end. Snake took a deep breath as if he had calmed down from his resentment. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Gu Mingming in disdain. His half-smile was a little scary. "The phone is ringing, aren't you going to pick it up?" Gu Mingming looked down and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. She was a little confused but still picked it up. "Hello, who is this?" Snake crossed his arms and watched Gu Mingming's expression change like a Sichuan opera face changing. He hung up the phone in a daze and jumped up, shaking his head excitedly. Yeah, the effect was very satisfactory. It was worth it for him to buy a chain restaurant and donate a new air conditioner to the entire school dormitory. He had wanted to see the process of her going from grievance to excitement, but this girl was stronger than he thought. She did not cry when she came out of the toilet. But it seemed like he did not expect her to cry. Now it was very good. Gu Mingming screamed for a long time before she calmed herself down. She grinned from ear to ear and kissed the phone again and again. Snake was dissatisfied. Why was she kissing the phone? Shouldn't she be kissing him? TSK, that stupid phone, which factory produced it? Why was it so ugly and an eyesore? Gu Mingming seemed like she wanted to say something to Snake, and Snake was waiting for her to share her joy. But Gu Mingming just gestured in front of Snake without saying a word. She just ran off. Snake grabbed her school bag and pulled her back. "Where are we going?" he asked despite knowing the answer. Gu Mingming was extremely agitated. She desperately wanted to share it with someone. Although Snake was not a suitable partner, she wanted to let him off just now, but he came to her door on his own accord. So Gu Mingming hugged Snake and jumped up and down a few times before saying, "I just received a call from Monster Company. They said that I passed the interview and can go for an internship. A monthly salary of $4,500 and food and lodging are included. I'm so happy." Snake was in a good mood because of Gu Mingming's hug, and felt even more comfortable seeing her happy expression. Was she that happy to be by his side? Seeing that she wanted to come to his side so much, he would reluctantly forgive her for not knowing his name. Chapter 751. Gu Mingming's brain was in a state of extreme excitement and she had no time to react to anything else. She still felt like she was dreaming when she held the employment application receipt and the work pass in her hands. Snake squinted his eyes and was no longer in a good mood. What was so good about that stupid sign? Was it better looking than him? Why was it staring at the sign and not him? Reaching out, Snake poked Gu Mingming's head hard and said, "Hey, come back to your senses." Gu Mingming was taken aback and stared at Snake for a long time. She said in a daze, "Why are you here?" Snake was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He gritted his teeth and said, "Who do you think drove you here and accompanied you to complete the employment procedures?" Gu Mingming smacked her head and laughed foolishly. Yes, thank you for sending me here." Snake cleared his throat and looked at Gu Mingming arrogantly. He asked, "Just a word of thanks and that's it? No action at all?" Yes, let me treat the school hunk to a meal. Eat whatever you want in the school canteen." Gu Mingming patted her chest generously. Snake laughed coldly and pinched Gu Mingming's face. "You are really sincere." Gu Mingming's face was pinched into a bun. She mumbled, I just got employed and haven't received my salary yet." Snake smiled and said, "No need. Tonight, someone is going to cook for me. I'm looking forward to it." Gu Mingming thought that this was good. She could save money for a meal. She was in a good mood. Snake ignored her and walked straight out. Gu Mingming instinctively followed behind him and entered the lift. She kept staring at her own work pass. It was so rare. But, didn't she apply for the position of HR? What the hell was the CEO's assistant? Was it printed wrong? Gu Mingming was a little confused. She wanted to go back and ask but realized that she was already in the lift with Snake. Ding! When the lift doors opened, they arrived at a clean and spacious open office. There were 4 tables in front of the lift and business elites in suits were seated on both sides. When they saw the lift doors open, they all stood up. Gu Mingming tugged at Lasna's arm. "I don't press randomly. This is my first day here. Don't give me any trouble. This job is very important to me." Snake smiled and rubbed her head. "Yeah, I know. This job is very important to you. So I brought you here to please your boss." With that, Snake pulled Gu Mingming out of the lift. The elites in the workplace saluted and shouted in unison, "Hello, President. Chief, Referee." Gu Mingming stared at Snake in shock. Her brain had crashed and she could not function. Seeing this, the white fog came again. Gu Mingming knew that this meant the end of the 2nd episode. He turned back to look at the beast deity and asked, "Aren't you afraid of getting beaten up for being stuck at a place like this?" The beast deity rubbed his nose and smiled. "You've already slept for a long time. If you don't wake up soon, your 2 partners will go crazy." Gu Mingming accepted this reason. Patting his butt, he stood up and said, "Dad, pocket money?" Chapter 752. Gu Mingming had gradually gotten used to the feeling of falling from a great height. She felt that in the modern world, roller coasters and pirate ships were all nothing to her. Slowly opening her eyes, she met Elvis's deep blue gaze. She smiled faintly and wanted to speak, but realized that her throat was a little dry. Before Gu Mingming could speak, Elvis had already kissed her. He held a mouthful of water in his mouth and dripped it into Gu Mingming's mouth, moisturizing her parched throat. After the water was gone, a lingering kiss followed. When Elvis released her lips, Gu Mingming asked, "How did you know I was thirsty?" Her voice was a little raspy. Gu Mingming felt that it was a unique characteristic. If she were to sing a heavy metal rock song now, it would be very good. But in Elvis and Lee's ears, this voice brought about a heart-wrenching feeling. Elvis gave another peck on Gu Mingming's lips as if he had not had enough before saying, "How do you think I fed you water during the 3 days and 2 nights you were asleep?" Gu Mingming's lips twitched as she looked at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming blushed and gave a soft, "Oh." Elvis did not know that she was thirsty. He was just about to feed her water and she just happened to wake up. Stretching herself, Gu Mingming looked around and asked, "Where are we? How far are we from the sea?" There were only a few males at first and no one had the mood to cook. They would settle their meals while hunting to save time and head to the sea in case Wabi went into hibernation before they were done. Then, no one would be able to protect Gu Mingming. But now that Gu Mingming was awake, cooking became the most important task. There was nothing more serious than starving Gu Mingming. Leah held Gu Mingming's hand and leaned into Elvis's arms. He kissed Gu Mingming's face to comfort her before saying, "I will go find something for you to eat." Oh. Ever since they realized that she was especially sensitive when it came to relationships, Elvis and Leah started their unbridled closeness mode. They would tease her every now and then, making her feel as if her heart was about to go numb. She had clearly asked, "Where is this?" But his reply was a kiss. Wabi just watched them coldly from the sidelines. He didn't say a word as he stared fixedly at Gu Mingming, as if he was about to rush forward to interrogate her. That stare made Elvis bristle and he could not help but bare his teeth. Gu Mingming could even feel Elvis's muscles twitching. Was he going to blow up and fight with Wabi? Gu Mingming gently caressed Elvis's chest with her little hands and comforted him. "Hubby, it's been hard on you these 2 days while I was asleep." Elvis lost his temper after hearing Gu Mingming's soft voice. He lowered his head and met her eyes, leaving only warmth on his face. He kissed her little face and said, "It's not hard to guard you." Gu Mingming planted a kiss on Elvis's face, then smiled sweetly. Successfully pacified. Why turning his head, he looked at Wabi and his expression turned cold. With a "bite me if you have the guts" expression, he asked, "What are you looking at?" Wabi replied, "So what if I'm looking at you?" According to the routine, Gu Mingming should respond with, "Come here, I'll tell you," before releasing his beast pressure and completely torturing Wabi. Chapter 753. Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders in exasperation. "Snake doesn't like you staring at me like that." Wabi's eyes brightened. He immediately leaned forward, wanting to ask but refusing to admit it. "You are spouting nonsense. He didn't know I was staring at you when you went to meet the beast deity." Gu Mingming turned her head and pointed at the mark on the back of her neck. "What did you say just now? Say it again?" Wabi stared at the lifelike mark, which had shrunk to the size of a palm. He was momentarily dazed. After a long pause he muttered, "Could it be, his soul is still living in your body? You can sense his emotions and communicate with him? Then, can you ask him to come out and talk to me? Just one sentence. Even punching me or glaring at me will do." Gu Mingming burst out laughing. Her expression was extremely nasty. "You actually believe such nonsense? How did you survive for the past 800 years? Wabi was taken aback. He was instantly enraged. His eyes narrowed into slits and his poisonous fangs dripped with venom. Gu Mingming stretched out her fair arm in front of Wabi. "You want to bite me? Here, bite me then." Wabi opened his mouth but still couldn't bite her. Her arm was too thin. It was not even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. If he bit her, it would break. If her arm broke, who knew how heartbroken that person would be? "Look at how you can't stand me and can't do anything to me. How are you like the legendary mighty Wabi? TSK little shit, just accept your fate. You can't do anything to me." Little shit. Wabi repeated those 2 words through gritted teeth. His face was so black that ink could drip from it. Rolling his eyes, Wabi gave a sinister smile. Since ancient times, the male has to pay for the female's troubles. I can't touch you, but I can challenge your partner. Guess if that stupid wolf and that coquettish fox of yours are enough to fill the gaps between my teeth? Gu Mingming shrugged and stood up from Elvis's arms. She bent down and smiled at Elvis. Hubby, he said he wants to challenge you. Elvis sneered and stood up. He twisted his neck left and right as a form of warm-up. That's great. This is a barren mountain and there's no need to be afraid of destruction. It's suitable for exercising. Wabiai's eyes brightened as he looked at Gu Mingming. Can we really fight? Gu Mingming sat at the side drinking water and looked at Wabiai. Why are you asking me? It's not like you're fighting me. After Snake left, Wabiai had not met a suitable opponent for a long time. He was extremely dispirited after not battling for so long. On the other hand, Elvis was also very depressed. Ever since they were in the Snake King Valley, he had been feeling sullen and powerless. This evil fire had been pressing on his chest, but he could not find a suitable opportunity to vent it out. He was at the peak of the 5th rank. He should be able to take a beating. Both of them rubbed their palms together in anticipation, but Gu Mingming waved at Ian and said, Hey bro, do you want to join in the fun? WDO Wildlife and Death Edition, it should be quite exciting. Ian sat over with a flustered expression. He glanced at Gu Mingming and pointed at the two beasts who were ready to strike. Are we really going to let them fight? Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble? Chapter 754. When Leah returned, he saw the ground littered with debris and two exhausted males sprawled on the ground, looking like they were on their last breaths. He walked suspiciously over to Gu Mingming, who was calmly drinking from a cup of hot water. He looked at Ian, who looked as if he had seen a ghost, and could not understand the situation at all. He skewered the processed prey on the tree sap and then placed it over the fire to roast. As he roasted, he said, I didn't bring a pot when I came out, so I'll have to trouble you to eat a roasted meal for the time being. I'll look for suitable ingredients on the way and dig a pot to bring along. I'll cook something for you that's easy to digest at night. Gu Mingming nodded as a form of agreement. She still had a faint smile on her face. Leah pointed at the two males who were sprawled on the ground, unable to transform back into human form. He asked, These two, what happened? Gu Mingming smacked her lips and smiled. The two of them just engaged in an unfriendly physical conversation. Leah was taken aback. Wabiai challenged Elvis? Gu Mingming nodded as a form of reply. Lee's expression darkened. He asked with a cold gaze, Who won? Gu Mingming glanced at him. It should be considered a draw? Both of their injuries are not light and they look like they're half dead. Leah lifted his head. Since there's no clear victor, he can't join our family. Oh. Gu Mingming was taken aback. She then laughed. You can't be thinking that Wabiai challenged Elvis to mate with me, right? Leah did not find it funny at all. He frowned. No. Gu Mingming shook her head. They just had nothing better to do and had a meaningless fight. Leah looked suspiciously at Elvis and then at Wabiai. Only then did he calm down. That's good. At least he knows his place. Gu Mingming leaned into Lee's arms. She chuckled. Suppressing one's emotions for too long will cause one to become a pervert. What about you? Do you need to find an opponent to vent? I think Ian is a good choice. Both of you have similar skills and should be able to spar. Leah planted a kiss on Gu Mingming's forehead. Then he smiled gently. This kind of violent and barbaric method is not suitable for me. If I want to release my stress, no one but you can do it. Lee's voice was light as a feather caressing Gu Mingming's heart. Every time he said a word, the feather would flutter, making Gu Mingming's heart itch. Gu Mingming gently pushed Leah away. She might not be the best in the beast world, but no one in the beast could beat her in the beast. Wabiai was lying on his back. After being beaten up by Snake for 800 years, perhaps his combat power was not the best, but no one in the beast world could beat him in terms of endurance. After resting for such a long time, Wabiai could already transform back into his human form. His face was bruised and swollen, but there was an inexplicable sense of comfort throughout his body. Wabiai had broken 2 of Wabiai's ribs. He could not transform into his human form for now. But this bout of venting had allowed him to release all the pent-up anger in his chest. Elvis had 2 of his ribs broken by Wabiai. He could not transform into his human form for the time being. But this bout of venting had allowed all the pent-up anger in his chest to dissipate. Chapter 755. He looked at Gu Mingming with an exceptionally gentle gaze. Even a wolf's eyes could not conceal that tenderness. His female really understood him. However, Li's words had enlightened him. Compared to fighting with Wabiai, perhaps a battle with Gu Mingming would be more effective. Gu Mingming held Elvis's face in her hands. It was clearly a fierce wolf's face, but she did not feel the slightest bit afraid. Even if she stuck her hand into Elvis's mouth to count how many teeth he had, she would not feel the slightest bit nervous. She kissed Elvis. "The way you look at me is not pure. It's as if you want to eat me up." Elvis thought to himself, "You guessed it right. I really want to eat you up." Gu Mingming patted Elvis lightly. "All right, you just stay here and have a good rest today. We will not continue on our journey today. We will set off tomorrow when you are better." Elvis did not have any objections and just nodded. After all, during the 3 days that Gu Mingming was asleep, they had been traveling at a very fast pace. They had been waiting for Gu Mingming to wake up so that they could slow down and not tire her out. Gu Mingming walked to Wabiai's side and sat down. She gave him a faint smile. "How is it? My taste in men is not bad, right?" Wabiai snorted coldly. "That's all. If you had not interfered just now, he would not only have 2 broken ribs." Gu Mingming thought to herself, "Yes, if I had not interfered just now, there would be a bloody gash on your chest. You don't want the snake gallbladder anymore?" These 2 people were getting anxious as they fought, and they even started to use killing moves. TSK, they really don't know their limits. But Gu Mingming did not want to use these words to agitate them. After all, Gu Mingming had only wanted them to vent their frustrations from the start. Now that the effect had been achieved, why should she cause more trouble for them? Hence, Gu Mingming clicked her tongue. "Would it kill you to praise me?" But Wabiai was unyielding. "Bad taste is bad. I'm not like those cowards who have been bewitched by you. You want me to flatter you against my will? Maybe in another 100 years. Gu Mingming chuckled and covered her mouth as she stared at Wabiai. It was only until Wabiai was starting to get goosebumps that she pointed at the back of her neck and said, "Don't forget, Snake is also my man." Although she did not mate in the beast world, but looking at Snake's attitude in the modern world, she probably could not escape from that time and space, so strictly speaking, this could not be considered a lie. Wabiai choked and his face turned red. He was speechless for a long time before he finally said, "You have good taste." Gu Mingming laughed out loud. "Oh, 100 years is so short. It's like a snap of the fingers." Wabiai died at the age of 800. The next morning the group prepared to set off. There was nothing much to pack and they only brought along 2 new high-quality furs that Leah had brought back from hunting yesterday, to be used as a cushion for Gu Mingming. Walking out of the wishing room, Gu Mingming looked up and chuckled. She exhaled and said, "I finally got rid of my little tail." Wabiai chuckled. "So this was your intention when you made me fight with Elvis yesterday?" Gu Mingming smiled without saying a word, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. Chapter 756. Yesterday the place they were at was a nest of stray beasts. With Elvis and Wabiai in their team, they were naturally not afraid of the stray beasts. And the majority of the stray beasts were crazily seeking battle and attacking in a suicidal manner. They did not care at all about the difference in power between themselves and their opponents. All they wanted was a bloody battle and a release. Gu Mingming naturally could not care less if they wanted to court death. But she would not be happy if they dirted her eyes. So she sent Leah to hunt and the little snake to protect him. She called Ian to sit beside her and let Elvis and Wabiai fight. She had thought that the battle between the 2 fifth-level beasts would be enough to intimidate the stray beasts. She did not expect them to become even more excited and eager to fight. Gu Mingming had no choice but to unleash her Beast King aura. It looked like she was suppressing Elvis and Wabiai, but in reality she was intimidating those stray beasts who were hiding in the dark. They were bloodthirsty and thirsted for killing and death. But deep in their bones, they were still dominated by the fear of a Beast King-level aura. So none of them dared to make a move yesterday. Instead, they quietly followed behind them until Gu Mingming and the rest left their territory before quietly turning back. Subduing the enemy without bloodshed. That is the best strategy. Gu Mingming said nonchalantly. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming and did not say a word. But he did not look too well, probably because he had not fully recovered from yesterday's injuries. No one took this little episode to heart and just continued on their way to the sea. The nearer they got to the sea, the wetter the air and the more energetic Wabiai became. Finally, after walking for close to 20 days, they finally met up with Fei Rui. Gu Mingming turned around and kissed Elvis and Leah on their cheeks. "I will go into the sea with this fellow to check out the situation. I will be back before the sky turns dark. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming and kissed her again and again. He reminded her worriedly. Don't force yourself just because you are a beast king. The sea is not a place for you to unleash your full power. Protect yourself first and don't leave Wabiai's side. Understand? Gu Mingming laughed softly. Don't worry. This fellow is even more afraid of me getting hurt than myself. He will definitely keep a close eye on me. Moreover, Gu Mingming pointed towards the sky and smiled mysteriously, saying, I have someone up there. Elvis and Leah followed her finger and looked up at the sky. Suddenly they laughed and said, But didn't he say that we can't investigate the matters of the beast world? Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders and said, The principle is not to interfere with the matters of the beast world, but there's no rule that says I can't cheat for my own daughter. In any case, I'm a second-generation immortal now. Even if I'm a fox borrowing the tiger's might, I should at least be arrogant a few times, right? Don't worry, my lonely old man who loves watching TV series will take care of me. Elvis and Leah were doubtful, but they did not say much. Elvis looked at Wabiai and said in an unusually serious tone, Help me take care of Xiao Meng. I will definitely return this favor in the future. But Wabiai snorted coldly and said disdainfully, Your face is not enough to order me around. I am giving face to the one behind her neck. Elvis did not argue with Wabiai and just said sincerely, No matter what, I am counting on you to take care of Xiao Meng. Gu Mingming hugged Elvis and Lee's neck and kissed them again. Then she hugged Fei Rui and walked towards the sea. As she walked, she shouted, Let's go, little shit. Digression. Chapter 757. After Gu Mingming, Fei Rui and Wabiai disappeared into the sea, Leah and Elvis exchanged a look. Leah did not ask anything and Elvis did not say anything either. On the other side, Gu Mingming didn't feel any shortness of breath after entering the bottom of the sea. The kiss of the beast deity was a good item. Perhaps this was a cheat that the beast deity had given his messenger? After entering the sea, Fei Rui and Wabiai kept staring at Gu Mingming, as if worried that she would feel uncomfortable in the seawater. Then they realized that Gu Mingming was like a joyful weight diving into the depths of the sea. They were filled with curiosity towards the brightly colored undeveloped fishes and even broke off 2 pieces of coral to stick on their heads, asking Fei Rui if she looked like a little dragon man. After Fei Rui entered the water, he transformed into a fish tail and his upper body was naked. In his human form, he looked soft and cute, but in his half-beast form, he gave off the vibe of a semi-mature male god. He had the vibe of a semi-mature male god in college. No high school who knew how to play basketball, play guitar and ride a bicycle to and from school in a white shirt and jeans. Yes, in high school, no older. If she only looked at his face, she would say he was in junior high school. But this figure, even if a junior high school boy stayed in the gym every day, he still wouldn't be able to develop such well-defined muscles. Gu Mingming's demonic claws reached towards Fei Rui's fishtail and she smiled slyly. Can I touch it? Before Fei Rui could reply, Gu Mingming's claws were already on him. Wow! It was the tail of the legendary mermaid. The scales were bright and neat, reflecting the sunlight filtered by the sea, suffused with a gorgeous and gentle halo. Speaking of flaws, Tiske, why was it a male? Her breasts are also too flat, affecting her beauty. Poor review. Although Gu Mingming only touched him once, when she looked up, she saw that Fei Rui's face was already as red as a monkey's butt. She instantly felt a sense of guilt, as if she had accidentally harmed the flower of her country? But she was really just curious. She did not know that the sensitive spot of a fish was its tail. Retracting her numb hand, Gu Mingming laughed dryly. I won't touch anymore. Let's go. Aren't you in a hurry to save your sister? Thinking of his little sister, Fei Rui's face darkened. He nodded and swam forward. After swimming for a while, he turned back and realized that Gu Mingming had been left far behind. He had already slowed down, but she still couldn't catch up. Her swimming posture was so strange. Although it looked good, wasn't it too slow? Gu Mingming looked at Fei Rui's confused face and sighed silently in her heart. She helplessly hooked her arms around Wabiai's neck and smiled. Brother, give me a lift. On what basis? Wabiai glared at Gu Mingming coldly. Gu Mingming turned her head and revealed the mark on the back of her neck. Is this enough? Wabiai gritted his teeth. He tucked Gu Mingming under his armpit with one hand and carried Gu Mingming like he was carrying luggage. He chased after Fei Rui in his half-beast form without saying a word. To be honest, the speed at which the fish and the snake moved in the water was really F*** ridiculous. It was like sitting on the underwater version of a roller coaster, and it was the version without the safety belt. It was really F***ing exciting. Chapter 758. Gu Mingming gestured for Wabi to release her. Then, with the aura of a messenger of the beast deity, she imitated that lonely old man who loved to watch television series and smiled kindly. Hello everyone, I am the messenger of the beast deity, Gu Mingming. Nice to meet you all. There was a wave of whispers in a language that Gu Mingming could not understand. Then one of the mermaids transformed into a half-beast form and tried to get closer. But he maintained a safe distance. Are you really the messenger of the beast deity? Gu Mingming chuckled. Have you ever seen a female non-sea tribe other than the messenger of the beast deity breathe and move freely in the ocean at this depth? The mermaid thought about it and felt that Gu Mingming's words made sense. But he was obviously very afraid of Wabi behind Gu Mingming. He pursed his lips and asked carefully, Then is he, your partner? Gu Mingming shook her head. No, he is my friend. The mermaid seemed very uneasy. He tugged at Fei Rui's arm. Your Highness, that seems to be a snake beast. We cannot afford to offend him. Let him leave quickly. Fei Rui shook his head. No, I need his power to save my sister. The mermaid said, Are you going to disregard your entire tribe for your sister? We have already been chased out of our home by the giant fish beasts. If we continue to cause trouble, the next time the giant fish beasts will kill us all. Fei Rui held his head high. The great messenger will protect us. The mermaid said, But the great messenger will not stay in the ocean forever. What will we do after she leaves? When they come back for revenge, who will protect us? Fei Rui bit his lower lip. He could not answer the mermaid's question. The giant fish tribe was known as the overlords of the ocean. The mermaids were no match for them. But once Gu Mingming left and the giant fish beast returned, he would still be unable to protect his tribe members or his sister. So he wanted to mate with Gu Mingming. He wanted to use the identity of the messenger's partner to intimidate the giant fish beasts. This way, as long as he was alive, the giant fish beasts would not dare to bully his tribe members. Gu Mingming shook her head at Fei Rui's aggrieved look, which looked like he was about to cry. He was too weak. If he could be forced into such a state by his own tribesmen, what would he do when facing the giant fish beasts? She didn't want to interfere at first, but Fei Rui kept glancing at her. Unable to resist the pleading look in his eyes, Gu Mingming sighed and asked, Has that Dora appeared yet? Fei Rui's expression changed. Fei Rui shook his head and said, No, there's no news at all. Gu Mingming frowned. That shouldn't be the case. The messenger of the beast deity's promise sounded quite valuable. Why didn't Dora take the bait? If she was a pure and innocent child without any greed, she would not have stolen the giant fish clan's treasures. Could it be that he was already dead? Or perhaps, Fei Rui, do you know what exactly is the treasure of the giant fish clan? Gu Mingming could vaguely smell a conspiracy. Moreover, it was a familiar formula and a familiar smell. Fei Rui shook his head. I don't know. We don't have much contact with the giant fish clan. The corners of Gu Mingming's lips curled up. She chuckled and continued asking, Then how did the giant fish clan determine that your sister stole their treasures? Chapter 759. Gu Mingming patted his shoulder. If you want to save your sister, you have to tell me everything. If you hide anything, I may not be able to help you. Fei Rui sighed. His eyes that were as bright as the stars seemed to be covered by dark clouds, losing their luster. His brows furrowed as he said with guilt and heartache, The leader of the giant fish tribe, Carter, led a group of tribesmen and charged into our tribe. They captured my sister and said that Dora had personally admitted that their tribe's treasure was in my sister's hands. No matter how we tried to explain, we couldn't beat them. We could only watch helplessly as they snatched my sister away. Gu Mingming's smile widened. She poked Fei Rui's head and asked, Then what about the territory being snatched away? Fei Rui's lips curled downwards, looking like he was trying hard to hold it in. With a hint of youthful stubbornness, he said, Because I kept asking Carter to return my sister. He found me annoying and challenged me. He said that if I won, he would return my sister to me. But if I lost, I would have to give him the territory of the mermaid tribe. I clearly knew that I was no match for him, but I still agreed. Because of my stupidity and recklessness, I implicated my tribesmen and my sister. Gu Mingming patted Fei Rui's shoulder and comforted him. Oh, you can do that. All right, let's not wait for that Dora anymore. Let's go find Carter. Fei Rui looked up at Gu Mingming in confusion. Gu Mingming smiled. Can't we challenge him? I will help you beat him up and win back my sister and the territory. Fei Rui stared at Gu Mingming in a daze. Can I? Gu Mingming smiled. Why not? Fei Rui hesitated. He knew that the consequences would be the same as the mermaid beast's worries. Once Gu Mingming left, the giant fish beast would still attack them in revenge and they would not be able to withstand it. But even so, he was desperate to save his sister. Just this once. Just one last time of recklessness. He felt that if it was Gu Mingming, she might be trustworthy. Nodding, Fei Rui ignored his tribesman's objections. He grabbed Gu Mingming's hand and flew off like an arrow. Wabiai clicked his tongue impatiently behind her, but still followed after her. The people of the mermaid tribe seemed to be afraid of Carter. None of them dared to follow him. They just quietly returned to the depths of the ocean. Other than a string of sighing bubbles, it was as if nothing had happened. The original territory of the mermaids was a large coral sea. The living corals were soft and tender, moving with the flow of the water. They were full of vitality and had an indescribable sense of tranquil beauty. Many nameless aquatic plants were evenly distributed and intertwined with the corals, forming a mirage in the sea. It looked a bit like the East Ocean Dragon Palace. A few giant fish beasts were wandering around the edge of the territory. They seemed to be guarding the gate. The moment he saw Fei Rui, he turned into his half-beast form and mocked him with disdain. Weakling, are you looking for trouble again? You've already lost your territory. What other chips do you have to challenge our patriarch? Fei Rui clenched his fists tightly and bit his lower lip, unable to speak. Gu Mingming took 2 steps forward and said with a smile, "Go, call Carter out for me." The giant fish beast sized Gu Mingming up with a dazed expression. Chapter 760. Wabiai took 2 steps forward and narrowed his eyes. I asked you to call for help. Are you deaf? If you look again, I will gouge your eyes out. Snake beast. The guard from the giant fish tribe was clearly shocked. He instantly jumped back a few meters and looked at Wabiai warily. He seemed to be quite frightened. Gu Mingming tilted her head and asked Wabiai, "Why are they so afraid of you? Have you done any harm here before?" Wabiai snorted coldly. "Not me, it's him." With that, he tapped the back of Gu Mingming's neck. Gu Mingming thought hard. Snake had indeed been to the bottom of the sea before. But it seemed like he had only come to find some seafood to improve his diet when he was bored. It seemed like he had not harmed anyone, right? Wait a minute. What did he eat back then? Gu Mingming suddenly felt a chill down her spine. She shook her head and finally understood why the ocean tribe was so afraid of snakes. Sighing in exasperation, she grinned at the giant fish tribe who had fled in fear. Clearly, this fellow had obediently gone to report. Chuckling, she said in exasperation, "See, shouldn't you have been so obedient earlier? Why must you let our little shit throw a tantrum? TSK cheap bastard." Gu Mingming. Wabiai gritted his teeth and roared her name word by word. Gu Mingming smiled nonchalantly. "Why are you glaring at me? I'm not afraid of you." Wabiai was infuriated. He grabbed Gu Mingming's shoulders and turned her around. Then he said to the mark on the back of her neck, "Snake, hurry and take her away." Then Wabiai was stunned. There was actually poison on his hands. He had long developed immunity to this poison. After all, he had been poisoned for over 800 years. Although the poison was quickly diluted by the seawater, he could still recognize it. It was Snake's poison. Staring at the mark on the back of Gu Mingming's neck, he was more and more convinced of what Gu Mingming had said previously. Snake was in her body. She was the one who lied to him. Snake was here, he must be here. This realization made Wabiai a little crazy. He grabbed Gu Mingming's shoulders and shook her violently. "Snake, you are here, aren't you? Come out, let's fight." Gu Mingming was about to vomit from Wabiai's shaking. Actually, it was just because Wabiai was too fierce to her just now that triggered Snake's protection mark. It was not Snake's soul that was angry, but it was useless for her to say anything now. Shaking her shoulders, Gu Mingming turned to look at Wabiai. "Diske, don't get touchy." Wabiai was taken aback for 2 seconds before he continued shaking Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming was really on the verge of vomiting from his shaking. Unable to tolerate it any longer, she slapped Wabiai far away. This scene happened to be seen clearly by Carter, who had just been called out from the tribe. There was no other male snake beast at the peak of level 5 in this world. How strong was it? Perhaps, even if they had never met, a single glare from him would be enough to make her heart tremble. A man like this was sent flying by a smaller female? Chapter 761. Carter's shock at Gu Mingming's slap was shattered by Fei Rue's appearance. The moment he saw Fei Rue, Carter's gaze was filled with disdain and arrogance. He smirked and said in an arrogant tone, "If you are so capable, snatch it back." Gu Mingming patted Fei Rue, who was clearly afraid but still wanted to charge forward. She comforted him with a smile. Fei Rue was a good child. Even though his thoughts were not mature enough and he was not powerful enough, just the fact that he stood in front of Gu Mingming to protect her even though he was clearly afraid was enough to make Gu Mingming willingly help him. Not because of the kiss of the ocean or any other reason, but because Gu Mingming felt that Fei Rue was a good person. Fei Rue pursed his lips into a straight line. He was hesitant but eventually calmed down. On one hand he believed in Gu Mingming's abilities, but on the other hand he was worried that Gu Mingming would be at a disadvantage. After all, she was a female. With that thought in mind, he stared unblinkingly at Gu Mingming. Every cell in his body was on guard against Carter, ready to use himself as a meat shield to protect Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming chuckled at how nervous he was and didn't say anything. She took 2 steps forward and looked at Carter. He had a strong physique and a resolute face. If he held a fork in his hand, he would be the most handsome version of the sea god Poseidon. His temperament was similar to Elvis from a certain point of view. His entire body was filled with signs that said, "Strangers do not come near," and the way he looked at her was very familiar to Gu Mingming, because Elvis and Leah always had this cold and guarded look when they looked at someone other than Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming placed her hands behind her back and looked up at Carter. Her small body contained a lot of energy. The nobility that Snake had accumulated over thousands of years was naturally not something someone like Carter could compare to. Let's put it this way, if Gu Mingming really wanted to act cool, no one in the entire beast world could do it better than her unless Snake himself came back to life. She chuckled with a king's disdain. She opened her mouth and said slowly and evenly, "Now the ocean tribes are no longer under the beast deity's control?" Carter was taken aback and frowned as if he didn't understand what she meant. Wabiai, who had been sent flying by Gu Mingming, had already stood back up. He had to play his role well in front of outsiders and not embarrass that person. Hence, Wabiai stared coldly at Carter, not saying a single word. Meanwhile, Fei Rue was standing on the other side of Gu Mingming. Although he was a little timid, he still said, "This is the messenger of the beast deity, Carter. No matter how arrogant you are, there should be a limit." Messenger of the beast deity? Carter's eyes darkened and his jaw muscles bulged, as if he was gritting his teeth and weighing something. Clenching his fists tightly by his sides, he remained silent for a moment before lowering his head and bowing respectfully. "Greetings, messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mingming chuckled. She rested one hand on Fei Rue's arm and leaned against Wabiai's shoulder, looking like an indecent empress dowager. She chuckled and said, "Let's skip the formalities. I am here to see, what is your sister's name again?" Fei Rue whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "Melinda?" Gu Mingming said, "Yeah, right. I'm here to see Melinda. Leader Carter, please make things convenient for me." Chapter 762. As they brushed shoulders, Wabiai bumped into him. Carter stumbled awkwardly but could not do anything to Wabiai. He could only clench his fists and follow behind Gu Mingming silently. This was originally the territory of the mermaid tribe, so Fei Rue was very familiar with the place and easily found his younger sister's original residence. Pink corals formed a circle around a huge open shell. The shell was filled with fresh seaweed, stacked neatly on top of one another. A pillow made from giant clams was placed at one end of the large shell. Beside it was some kind of shellfish containing food. Gu Mingming had never seen it before, so it must be some kind of fruit from the bottom of the sea? A young girl was sitting on the ground, her upper body sprawled on the seaweed on the shell bed. She buried her face in her arms and refused to look up. Her blonde hair was slightly curled. It was not exaggerated, but it was very classy. Gu Mingming would not normally say that blonde girls were classy. Even if it was a high-end blonde goddess from European and American movies, she would at most say that they had an aura. Gu Mingming felt that only black-haired Chinese girls were worthy of the term classy. But for some reason, just by looking at her back, Gu Mingming felt that a blonde girl was classy for the first time. She lay there motionlessly, looking like an injured swan in a ballet. There was a faint sense of sadness and helplessness, but also stubbornness and unwillingness to give in. Gu Mingming had not even seen her face, but her heart ached for this girl. "Melinda," Fei Rue called out agitatedly. The girl's back froze for a moment before she suddenly turned around. Her eyes, which were almost identical to Fei Rue's, were misty, but her lips were curved into a joyful smile. "Brother." The girl stood up abruptly. Ignoring the numbness in her legs, she ran towards Fei Rue in a sorry state. Fei Rue naturally did the same. He rushed forward and hugged his sister tightly in his arms, comforting her gently and patiently. Gu Mingming glanced at Carter. Her eyes were filled with complicated emotions. Enduring? Sadness? Helplessness? Perhaps it was pain, but there was no anger. This was not the look one should have when looking at a criminal. Gu Mingming was no stranger to this look. Elvis and Leah had the same look when looking at her. You're not satisfied? Gu Mingming stood beside Carter and asked. Carter gritted his teeth and said, unless the great emissary stays at the bottom of the sea to protect the mermaid clan, otherwise. You're still going to use the excuse of the clan treasure being stolen to continue imprisoning the girl? Glancing sideways, Gu Mingming accepted the shock in Carter's eyes calmly. This fellow must have thought that he had acted very well and no one would know the truth. Gu Mingming smiled like an expert, then said lightly, what you did would only push her to the opposite side of you. If in her eyes you will always be the enemy. Carter's eyes widened at Gu Mingming's words. He didn't even have such a reaction when he saw Wabi. Chapter 763. Fei Rue finally managed to coax the crying Melinda. Then he held her little hand and slowly walked over to Gu Mingming. He looked at Gu Mingming anxiously. Great messenger, can we bring my sister away? Gu Mingming tilted her head. I just came in to take a look. I will leave after making sure your sister is fine. You have to ask Carter whether you can bring her away. Gu Mingming's words stunned not only Fei Rue and Melinda, but even Carter. 3 pairs of eyes widened in shock. They stared at Gu Mingming in confusion. Gu Mingming shrugged. Of course, no one can stop me even if I were to openly rob her today. But, do you want Melinda to be labeled as a thief forever? Think carefully. If she leaves with me today, it would be equivalent to confirming her crime of stealing someone else's things. She would not be able to clear her name again in the future. Gu Mingming shrugged nonchalantly and said, well, it's easier for me to just bring her away directly. After all, our deal is just to help you save your sister. It doesn't include clearing her name, and it also doesn't include whether she will be captured again after I leave. Fei Rue was in a dilemma again. He bit his lower lip. It's all right. I can bring my sister to another part of the ocean and start afresh. Far away from here, no one will recognize us and no one will be able to find us. When he mentioned leaving, Carter's pupils shrank. The veins on his fists were popping. He was clearly furious. Gu Mingming tugged at him and shook her head gently. Then her gaze landed on Melinda's face. She smiled gently. Melinda fulfilled all of Gu Mingming's fantasies of being a mermaid. She was not just a backview killer. Even Gu Mingming, who had been brainwashed by Elvis and Leah to think that she was the most beautiful woman in the world, felt a sense of inferiority in front of Melinda. Long years at the bottom of the sea had caused her skin to be smooth and fair. Her body, which had been honed by swimming, flowed smoothly like water. There was not a single bit of excess fat on her body. She was simply the embodiment of perfection. Her face was so pure that people couldn't bear to say a harsh word in front of her. She was supposed to be a princess that was held in the palm of the hand. Melinda had definitely refreshed Gu Mingming's understanding of females in the beast world. She was the most beautiful female Gu Mingming had ever seen in the beast world. At this moment, Marlene bit her lower lip and hesitated for a long time. But she still raised her head with determination and looked at Gu Mingming. No, I'm not leaving. I didn't steal anything, so why should I run away? Gu Mingming smiled softly. From the corner of her eye, she saw that Carter had also finally heaved a sigh of relief, no longer suffocating as if someone was strangling him. Gu Mingming walked in front of Fei Rue and patted his shoulder. Looking into his sparkling eyes, she comforted him. I will stay by the seaside for a while and help Melinda settle the matter of the theft. I will let her live openly at the place she likes. Do you want to believe me for once? But Fei Rue's gaze turned towards Carter. It was filled with wariness and hostility. Gu Mingming reached out without hesitation and sent Carter flying with a slap. Then she dusted her hands. With me around, I'll see who dares to bully my little mermaid. Chapter 764. By the time they returned to the shore, the moon was already shining brightly. Leah sat by the fire and stirred the food in the pot, his eyes constantly drifting to the surface of the sea. It wasn't until he saw that familiar figure running in front of him that his heart finally calmed down. Elvis removed the beast's skin that had been roasting by the fire and wrapped it around Gu Mingming. He then glared coldly at Fei Rui back into the sea. He watched as Wabi knowingly swam into the forest in search of food. There was no one else by the shore, so he quickly helped Gu Mingming change into a clean set of clothes to prevent her from catching a cold. As Gu Mingming changed, she reached out her hand for food. She was really hungry. Although it was either Fei Rui or Wabi who pulled her along the entire journey, the distance she had swum today was definitely enough for her to complete a triathlon. She had used up a lot of her energy. Elvis was always in a good mood when he saw her eat more. So he asked as he fed her, "How did the matter go? Did the leader of the giant fish tribe make things difficult for you?" Gu Mingming chuckled and said, "The plot is rather melodramatic. It's just like the deep-sea version of, the president is above, I'm below, adhering to the light-hearted plot of torturing you because I love you. I really wonder if the brains of you males are filled with laundry detergent?" Leah and Elvis were at a loss. They had no idea what laundry detergent was, but from her tone, it was probably not a compliment. But they caught on to something. Torturing you because I love you? So, not only did Gu Mingming attract a love rival for them in the sea today, she had also been wronged and tormented. Gu Mingming could tell from their expressions that they had misunderstood again. Raising her hand, Gu Mingming stopped herself in time. "Stop, don't let your thoughts run wild. He doesn't like me. I am at most a matchmaker in this matter." "Mm?" Elvis's face darkened as he asked in a monosyllabic voice. Gu Mingming took another bite of meat. Before she swallowed, she smiled and tilted her head to point at the surface of the sea with her chin. "There, the main character is here. If you are curious, just ask him directly." Carter had originally come to ask Gu Mingming why she was helping him, and also what to do next. But seeing that there were others around, he could not bring himself to do it. She wanted to go back the way she came, but when she saw how Gu Mingming, Elvis and Leah were interacting, she felt very envious. Momentarily at a loss, she walked closer. Now that he had been singled out by Gu Mingming, it was too late for him to retreat. He might as well transform into his human form and walk over. Elvis handed Gu Mingming over to Leah before standing up and walking towards Carter. With a cold expression he asked, "What did you do to Xiao Meng?" Carter had long seen Elvis's mark on Gu Mingming's collarbone, so he naturally knew about their relationship. He pursed his lips and said, "I was slapped by the great messenger, does that count?" Without saying a word, Elvis threw a punch at Carter's face. Carter fell to the ground, seeing stars. He was considered a tyrant in the sea, but his abilities were limited on land. Moreover, he was only a third-level beast, so a punch from the fifth-level Elvis was enough to make him suffer. Elvis's voice was cold and filled with anger. "Xiao Ming never hits people for no reason. If she hits you, it must be because you did something that deserves to be hit." Carter looked at Elvis and did not open his mouth. On one hand he had a deep-rooted fear towards the strong, and on the other hand he had a favor to ask of Gu Mingming. He was willing to pay such a price. Digression, author Xiao Ming. "Son, why did you hit people for no reason without asking clearly?" Elvis, "Xiao Ming thinks that he deserves to be hit. That is the most sufficient reason for me to hit him. I don't need anything else." Author Xiao Ming, "Both of you have violent tendencies. Carter is innocent." Elvis, "Innocent? Do you know how many joints in Xiao Ming's body needed to move to complete that slap? My Xiao Ming had to go through so much trouble, yet he is innocent." Chapter 765. Gu Mingming didn't stop Elvis from beating Carter up. She just ate with gusto. When she was almost done, she called out, "Hubby, wash the pot." Elvis left Carter behind and returned to Gu Mingming's side. He kissed her oily lips, then carried the new stone pot Leah had made to the beach to wash it. Carter then climbed up from the ground pathetically and walked to Gu Mingming's side. He bowed and greeted, "Great messenger." Gu Mingming acted as if she couldn't see the wounds all over his body. "Sit down. Tell me your story." Carter was taken aback. He had thought that since Gu Mingming had been sent by Fei Rui, she would definitely detest him as much as Fei Rui did. Although she had not displayed any hostility at the bottom of the sea and had even secretly helped him keep Melinda behind, he still could not figure out what this great messenger was thinking. Moreover, he thought that Gu Mingming would at least ask him why he was looking for her. But she asked him to tell her his story? He came here with a stomach full of questions, not to tell a story. Gu Mingming smacked her lips, as if she was still savoring the taste of that last mouthful of meat. After swallowing her saliva in satisfaction, Gu Mingming spoke first. "I will stay here for 10 days. If you can't settle Melinda in 10 days, I will leave with the siblings." "Great messenger," Carter growled. Leah laughed coldly as he protected Gu Mingming in his arms. His slanted eyes were filled with disdain and provocation as he stared at Carter. His tone was calm but colder than the seawater under the moonlight. Killing you here might be a simpler and more violent method. How long has it been since I last ate fish? Thinking about it, I'm really hungry. They were both third-level beasts, but they were on land. Carter couldn't possibly defeat Leah. If he wanted to return to the sea, Elvis was guarding the beach and wouldn't give him a chance to enter the sea. Moreover, he was here to ask questions and not to cause trouble. Carter bent his knees and knelt in front of Gu Mingming. He lowered his head. Great messenger, please help me. Tell me how to make Melinda accept me. Gu Mingming chuckled and leaned into Lee's arms. I want you to sit down, not kneel. If I don't want to help you, it's useless for you to kneel or kowtow. If I want to help you, I won't trample on your dignity, understand? Carter nodded, not fully understanding. Then he sat up according to Gu Mingming's instructions. He stared at Gu Mingming with sparkling eyes, as if he was hoping to see a flower blossoming on her face and pluck it for Melinda to win her heart. Gu Mingming sighed and said, even if I want to give you ideas, I have to first know what is going on. Tell me your story with Melinda, and I'll help you think of a way. Carter nodded. He was obviously a hardliner, but at this moment, when he thought of his sweetheart, a trace of gentleness and shyness appeared on his face. There was a territorial dispute between clans and I was heavily injured. I almost lost my life. I was saved by Melinda, who was out playing. With just one look, I fell in love with her. After I recovered, I returned to the giant fish tribe. The battle was still going on and I couldn't leave my people behind. But when the battle ended and I went to find her, she didn't recognize me. She rejected me, resisted me, avoided me. She was afraid of me. Out of topic. Chapter 766. She is the most beautiful female in the world. I swear I will cherish her, protect her and give her the best. But, she was so nice to me when I was injured. Why did she abandon me after I recovered? I did not do anything to hurt her. Why is she afraid of me? Even you, the great messenger, can see through my feelings for her. Why does she not know? I will never hurt her. Carter felt helpless and helpless. He lowered his head and sighed, unable to say anything else. Gu Mingming chuckled. You snatched the mermaid tribe's territory and forced her tribesmen to have nowhere to go. You humiliated her brother time and time again, forcing him to come all the way to St. Nazaire to ask for my help to save him. Do you think all these are not hurt? Carter looked up in confusion. I snatched the mermaid tribe's territory because she did not like where the giant fish tribe lived. She said she wanted to go home, so I snatched her home back for her. Gu Mingming could not control herself and laughed. Her face was filled with the word convinced. His way of thinking was really strange. How did he come up with such a solution? Gu Mingming really felt that gender theory and horoscopes were all a fantasy. How did the way of thinking between the sexes become so different? And Fei Rui, he is always the one challenging me. I have never taken the initiative to find trouble with him. It is not my fault that he could not beat me. Gu Mingming face-bombed. Young man, your way of thinking is called destined to be alone. Do you understand? Carter shook his head honestly. Gu Mingming explained kindly. It means destined to be alone for life. Carter panicked. What did I do wrong? Gu Mingming suddenly wanted to laugh. It was like a child who handed in a blank paper and asked his teacher, Teacher, what do you think I did wrong? What can I improve on? The teacher's reply was, You did wrong because you did not even write your name. Gu Mingming patted Li's chest. Tell him where he did wrong. I am afraid I will drown him with my spit. Leah suddenly felt that Carter was not so annoying. After all, he was blind. A handicapped fish was quite pitiful. Why did he say that he was blind? Of course, it was because he said that Melinda was the most beautiful female in the world. What a joke, the most beautiful female in the world was Gu Mingming in his arms, alright? If he couldn't even tell, what else could he be other than blind? Leah still had some compassion for the handicapped. After all, a witch doctor was also a kind of angel in white. It was his duty to care for the wounded. Of course, the prerequisite was that this patient did not covet his Meng. Clearing his throat, Leah placed his large tail into Gu Mingming's arms, allowing her to play with it. Squinting his eyes, Leah said, With your intellect, you can't have thought of framing her for stealing, right? Tell me, who is the mastermind behind this? Chapter 767. Gu Mingming and Leah looked at each other and smiled, understanding each other. Leah continued, The female said she wanted to go home and you snatched her territory. This idea? Carter replied with a blank expression. Oh, this was my own idea. Leah chuckled. No one reminded you? Carter thought for a moment, then replied, Dora gave me a suggestion. Leah chuckled, then shook his head and sighed, ignoring Carter. He hooked Gu Mingming's chin and said affectionately, Mingming, promise me don't choose partners from the ocean tribes. They are so stupid, it will lower the average IQ of our family. Gu Mingming nodded in agreement. Don't worry, I am very repulsed by males who don't know how to judge a whore. Elvis had already finished washing the pot and placed it beside a big tree. He then shook off the water on his hands and carried Gu Mingming up. Elvis had heard their entire conversation. He could still coexist peacefully with a male who had no ulterior motives towards Gu Mingming. He kissed Gu Mingming's little face, then said, Take the kiss of the ocean and let's go. He is hopeless, don't waste time. Carter was really dumbfounded by Gu Mingming's family of 3. He couldn't get a word in or understand what they were saying until Elvis said he was not going to care about him. Then he snapped out of his trance and looked at Gu Mingming anxiously. Great messenger, what did I do wrong? Please tell me. I am willing to change. For Melinda I can change anything. Gu Mingming chuckled. Do you know what your biggest mistake is? Carter shook his head. Everything he did was to keep Melinda by his side. He didn't feel that he had done anything wrong. Gu Mingming, indeed, a person with terminal male cancer will never know that he is beyond cure. Carter was taken aback. He looked down at his own body and frowned. I am going to die? So I can't give her happiness, right? Gu Mingming thought that communicating with Snake was already the limit of the generation gap, but now it seemed like she was wrong. In the beast world there was only more difficult communication, not the most difficult. Something like a generation gap, haha, had no limits. Leah chuckled. Not being able to make the female you like happy is your biggest mistake. Carter nodded in agreement and said, I know it's my fault. But I don't know how to change. That's why I'm here to consult Lord Emissary. Leah shook his head and said, Listening to females other than the ones you like is the second mistake you made. Carter's expression was stiff and somewhat wooden. Listening to Lee's words was like listening to a book from heaven. His mouth was slightly agape and his eyes were blank as he looked at Leah, not understanding what was going on. Leah pointed at Elvis and then at himself. My Mingming liked me first, but he is Mingming's first partner. Do you know why? Kite thought for a moment and said, Because he's a level 5 orc. You can't beat him. Leah snickered. You are really outstanding in your stupidity. How could he have been at the 5th level before mating? Kite slapped his forehead as he recalled the matter of the level 3 boundary. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.